This is the Town of Darien Sewer Commission regular meeting agenda of Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. We are here in person in room 206 at Town Hall, and it looks like it's about 4:30 p.m., plus or minus a minute. First item on the agenda is to review and approve, if appropriate, the minutes from our last meeting on February 7th.
I had an issue with number 4.
Okay.
We're about 2/3 down. It says holding tanks could be a potential solution, but commissioners worry about people putting things down the drain that really shouldn't, and then would get in the system and tank. I don't think those two concepts were related. I think Bob said.
They are, because part of the holding tank would be the comminutor grinder.
And you're worried things would get chewed up in there.
No, the comminutor will grind them up.
Right. Oh,
So you're grinding them up before introducing them to the collection system.
What this actually says is, we wouldn't want a grinder comminutor because things are flushed down the toilet that shouldn't be. It's holding tanks on and on. And I just don't think.
It's really the reverse.
It's the reverse.
Yeah.
The logic is backwards on
Down the
this.
drain that shouldn't be.
Yeah, the but
Yeah,
is the wrong connection.
Right.
We're concerned to get in the system, that's why you want a tank.
Or
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
benefit of a tank.
Yeah,
Right.
or another
So-
benefit.
Yeah, the tank system, because it's not the actual tank that would take it out.
We
It would
also
be-
think we're designing something that hasn't been designed yet, and it gets pretty granular for minutes.
how about just holding tanks could be a solution, full stop?
Yeah. And commissioners
But
worry,
commissioners worry about
no,
commissioners.
period, no but,
Yeah.
capital C.
Yep, got it,
Yep.
exactly. Commissioners worry about people putting things down the drain. They
They really shouldn't, period, full
Period.
stop.
Yep, yep, and then
Excellent.
strike the rest of the sentence.
Yep, I think that's just
I mean, I
simpler.
know we were free-ranging and everything, but
Yes.
it's important not to have those two things tied together in that way, because it had nothing to do with what we were talking about.
Yeah, they could be related, but it's not.
Right.
Anyway, I agree with those
Do
edits.
you want to leave liners?
Yeah,
Maybe? Yeah.
yes. That's the third sentence. I can give you these changes.
Yeah, I've got it too.
Darren, when we're done, if you didn't follow along. Any other thoughts, comments, or edits on the minutes from February 7th?
I didn't see anything else.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion with those edits to approve.
I'll
Yes.
second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, approve the minutes as amended. Okay, the minutes are approved. Darren, do you need a markup, or you?
I got it.
All right, item 3 on our agenda was to be, item 3 on our agenda was to be a presentation by our consultants, Arcadis, on the completion of the CMOM report and document, but that is going to be postponed until next month. So we can move directly on to item number 4 on our agenda, which is related to the potential residential development of 7 Sedgwick. We have discussed this at some length at our last 2 meetings. What we are presented with for this meeting is, number 1, an official sanitary sewer report from Land Tech. And number 2, was it in here? The proposal by Arcadis to provide peer review services, or was that just something that was emailed to me? That's in there.
It's got a price attached
Yeah,
to it of X.
So what I want to do, since we have dedicated a lot of time to this the past couple of meetings, what I would like to do is get the commission's thoughts about the third-party review, get the applicant's thoughts about third-party review, and if so, be in a position to authorize that third-party review to begin, with the understanding that they might be the best among all of us to review and respond to the details of the sanitary sewer report. Any thoughts on?
It's the scope of review that I would wonder about. Is it
Yep.
really just checking the math in this approach? Or is it looking at a more global approach to how we should be studying capacity in the total system?
Well, I suppose you're asking two questions and two
Nope.
different thoughts. Well, I know they're the same question, right? But one question is probably appropriate. Well, let's say they overlap. One is certainly the applicant has presented a technical document, and we need the basis of that technical document reviewed. Two is, I guess what you would like in that review, if I could interpret, is to say, did they look far enough? Is this an appropriate scope for the proposed project?
Sure.
What else should we be
I would-
thinking about
I-
or worried about?
I would really love guidance, and, you know, I've been trying to wrap my mind around, it's awfully hard for applicants and for us to not have a methodology. And where do we find the North Star to set our instruments? And that's sort of where I've been coming out all along.
Yeah,
And I'm not sure these two manholes are the biggest problem in the world.
yeah.
So
you're-
my question would be, would the consulting engineer also look at that? And is the methodology sound to get to these conclusions, and then
Does the math derive this
Well,
conclusion?
I think one of the reasons that we have gone in this direction is because Arcadis specifically now has some general and institutional knowledge of
Oh, I
our
think
system.
Arcadis is a great choice.
But to that end, they are also the right people potentially to answer the question that you're asking, which is this, are we even asking the right questions?
That's it.
You know,
Okay.
like, are there other questions, are you aware of something downstream or with a certain thing? Or are we gonna whittle ourselves into an issue if we don't think big picture?
I mean, I pulled the EPA guidelines on capacity analysis, and it's vague whether it's wet weather, dry weather, and it does suggest you look at the areas where there's SSOs, where there are problems. And this manhole doesn't meet that threshold to me, but other areas in the system might.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you go
Full
back
stop.
to the list of SSOs that we have, and we can recirculate, we did have a number on Mechanic Street that were primarily caused by fats, oils, and grease impacts.
And our program has helped that.
Yeah,
Which
but
is great.
You know, then the next big one was the break in the gravity line that we had downstream of where the Stony Brook Force Main discharges.
Right.
So I guess I'd have to look at other ones to see, well,
We just only have to look down the field here.
well, I guess the question is, do we have?
It's not very far.
Yeah. Do we have specific ones that we can point to there and times and dates and so forth?
Well, we have people who we had to replant the lawn, and there's sewage back.
Oh, on that one, yeah.
And
I
that-
do remember that one. Yep.
So that's just sort of where I'm coming out, is would they also take a glimpse at that and give us guidance? Because there is nothing about how you do this. And I just must be impossible if you go in to get a building permit, or you're trying to get a license or a permit to do anything. There's guidelines, and it just doesn't seem like this is refined at any level. And I can see why, because each system's so unique. But as a layman, not coming from an engineering background, I can read up on Manning's equation and look at how the pipes function and understand that. But I'm trying to go up a little bit higher and say,
What are
where
the-
should we be looking at to
It's
our
the-
fiduciary responsibility to the
It's
citizens?
the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You have
Kind
to
of.
figure out what are the right questions to ask.
I guess it gets easier when you have the right questions. So that would be my question.
Yeah. What are the right questions
Mhm.
that we should be asking?
And that's an awful burden to put on the applicant.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is there a
What's
part of
fair?
this that is Arcadis advising the commission, and a part of this where Arcadis is reviewing a specific application? And they overlap, right, because we have this in front of us, and what is the appropriate limit to the study?
Yep.
Is a reasonable question to ask. But the bigger picture of, what are the right questions we should be asking of all applicants is not for this applicant to pay
No,
for.
that's not fair.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sort of against kind of cookbook ways to do things. I think when you have a problem, if you address it new,
Yeah.
you might get a better solution,
Mm.
faster.
Well, I tried calling the EPA and they didn't get back to me. Shocking. They said there was a one-day response and it was somewhere up in
Well,
Boston.
that just
And
proves
that's
my
not an
point.
insult to anybody. It's like, I'm just trying to figure out what the job is and then I'll figure out how to do it.
Now, that proves my point, if you're talking to the E EPA.
Well, they didn't call me back.
Of
so
course.
They didn't. But, so, yeah,
Yeah.
the answer is yes.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming out.
Okay, so,
I'd be all in
Well-
favor.
yeah, go ahead.
Are we
Susan.
gonna go around the room?
We are gonna go around the room.
Okay.
To summarize this, and then we'll go and get additional comment. You're saying you wouldn't only like Arcadis to review the technical merits of the report, but you would also like to ask if the scope of the report is appropriate, given the proposal and the specifics of the system.
That seems like a reasonable, small question, yeah.
Well,
That-
for this applicant.
Yep.
And then on the second side, which is there something we should be considering as a sewer commission
Methodology.
when reviewing applications?
Yep.
Okay. Susan?
It struck me that we've been told that it's undersized. So I'm thinking it's too soon to ask Arcadis to review anything. They seem to be relying on the I&I work being completed to give us the capacity. So as long as the system's undersized for this development, aren't we putting the cart before the horse?
Well, I think there's two things. One, in my mind, the information they presented last time was not the best information that they could have presented, created in the proper way. So
Are you saying it's not undersized?
I'm going to let them make their presentation. But the numbers they provided us last time grossly overestimated the condition in a wet weather event, where we have actual data, which Arcadis provided to them since they talked to us last time, that is different than the estimates that they were providing.
But don't they say in their application here that,
It's right on the edge.
yeah, it's on the
Yeah,
edge?
the second pipe is basically at capacity
Not,
So are,
in a wet weather event.
right.
Yeah.
And aren't they also saying, additionally, the town of Denton has initiated this I&I abatement
Yeah.
program?
Yeah.
It seems to me once we know that that is going to solve some of the problems, that's when we address this. And that's when we spend $10,000 on Arcadis to look at it.
So explain further. So we would, if you were
Well, when
giving
when
specific
is the
direction.
I&I going to be addressed in this area of town? According to your, mapping out of.
Could be a couple, could we have one phase going this year, another phase going next year, so it could be. a
So
couple
in
of
other
years.
words, it might not be for a couple of years before we know that the I&I improvements are going to create make the system capable of handling this additional flow. So why would we spend $10,000 on Arcadis to do a study when we don't really have an application that we know will work now? It's all predicated on having this work be done in a couple of years. So that's sort of where I came at it, that this is just all too soon.
Okay.
And there should be almost a moratorium until we get it all sorted out, till we get the I&I sorted out, till we know that so we've gotten to this point now where this I&I has become a huge problem because, I guess, of lack of maintenance, lack of review. Do we know down the road that we're gonna have all of this maintenance ongoing? Do we have, things in place for that? I'm sure Arcadis will help us to identify what those things are.
So
that
you're
needs to
worried
happen.
about any additional inputs into the system
That's already,
that
Tax-
seems to be at capacity
Mhm.
without making the improvements and doing the maintenance necessary to prove that it has additional capacity.
yeah, cart before the horse.
Okay. Bob?
Sorry, Craig, let me
Yep,
just,
yeah, go
let
ahead.
me just ask a question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is your concern also that the town is going to pay the $10,000 to have this done?
No, I come from a planning and zoning background, and in my opinion, that the $10,000 should be paid by the applicant. I just don't want to waste their money either.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Hill?
I agree with what Susan said, but the other part of this puzzle to me is where the two parallel pipes along the post road join, basically in front of Corbin Drive, because now coming from Corbin Drive is going to be 51,000 new gallons of water from the proposed which is the projected flow from the Corbin the projected increase in flow from the Corbin project. So I would think that it would be impossible to, I would think it would be certain that you would need to include that at least to there, probably at least to the highway. I would love to see it right to Stony Brook included in this.
So you're somewhere supporting both Reese and Susan in that you're questioning the limit of the study, in that are there other choke points farther downstream, like the one
With
in
now an
Fort Worth?
inclusion of 51, I believe it's 51,000 new gallons of water a day.
And also the concern about system capacity.
Yes.
Okay. Before I turn it over to the applicant, staff, do you have any thoughts or, well, I thought he spoke. Yeah, okay.
Peter, you good?
No, they
Yeah.
covered it all.
Okay.
So let me just give you a little background of why it's on the agenda for today.
Yep.
And why you got the report.
Yep.
First, I wanted you to see it as soon as I had it in my hand so that we could speak intelligently about this. The reason I put it on the agenda was to give you the proposal from Arcadis to do the review, and for you folks to discuss, one, if you think the limits of their proposal is adequate, needs to be adjusted, needs to be extended, is it at a proper time, and so on. The other piece was to let you know that, well, that 10,000 was not to exceed, it should have been in there, so, rather than lump sum. The other piece was to discuss with you if we should have Arcadis review this report and discuss with their engineer any issues they come up with, changes they should make, methodology they should change, an end value, whatever it may be, before we go through and hear another presentation for the third time about how maybe one of our system pipes isn't adequately sized, after hearing from Arcadis that it's fine, and they had looked at it already before they go through the report. So that's what this item is a placeholder for today and why we're discussing it now.
How can engineers have two so different views, that one would say that it's undersized several times in January, regardless of the map perhaps being wrong by this engineer or whatever you were saying about the numbers, and then Arcadis come in and say, oh, it's okay? So
Well,
I think there needs to be an
Shouldn't we get to the bottom of it?
Well, I think there
Yeah.
should be an explanation of why there's such variation between engineering, especially when the applicant's the one saying undersized. And our expert, or our people that are looking at this are saying, oh, no, it's fine.
Well-
I need somebody to
I
articulate why.
come from a little different background where I'm very sensitive to language, and this is their own conclusion. However, it is our professional opinion that the minor addition of .04 CFS from the proposed development during a brief peak period is not reasonably likely to result in noticeable surcharge or other adverse impacts to the receiving municipal sewer of the town of Darien compared to current conditions. Not reasonably likely.
I highlighted that
That
exactly.
language to me is, whoa,
I mean,
not
some-
reasonably likely the plane will fall out of the
We're
sky.
not.
reasonably likely the
We're
train
not.
will hit another
Gotta
train.
do with it.
Again, I'm sensitive to those.
But we're not being asked right now
To judge that.
approve this report.
But
We're-
when the
We're being
applicant-
told by the sewer superintendent that he had a conversation with our engineer about this, in which she didn't immediately come to that same conclusion.
Okay.
And so our superintendent is asking us, well, it seems like they should take a closer look at these conclusions to see what the differences may be in their approach and their thoughts.
And that's the step and stage that we're at right now, right? We have a proposal to look at it. I need two things. I need the commission's approval that this proposal is adequate to move forward. I need approval from, of course, the developer that he's going to accept the responsibility to pay those costs. And then I need to have the report put in Arcadis' hands to say, okay, you need to review this now and come up with comments. And that's the stage we're at right now. Because we've had one person presenting, and had not yet the ability to give it to our third-party engineer review to have it done. And we're at that point right now, where we need to have somebody look at it,
So I
evaluate
would
it.
describe it as, we have to agree on what the facts are.
Not really, you're asking the town now to approve an approval that the applicant says isn't.
No, I'm asking for Arcadis to evaluate the proposal, or not the proposal, the analysis that was done. Just like you would for any stormwater project.
Yeah, that's what the sentence says.
No, I understand the bid from Arcadis, but the applicant themselves says not reasonably likely. I mean, it's not like they've hit a home run and it's whether it touched the wall or the glove or.
Reese, the first thing you have to do with any report, and I'm probably preaching to the choir right now, is you have to check the numbers. Numbers have to be checked. The evaluation, whether they put in there that it's not likely, it is likely, it could happen, maybe it doesn't happen, I don't know. Any of that conclusion at the end doesn't mean a thing until we check the numbers. And make sure the evaluation was done using proper either calculations, proper numbers off the meter readings every 5 minutes, and so on. So those things have to be checked.
Because it kind of sounds like you're saying Arcadis doesn't think they've used proper numbers, because they think there's plenty of
No,
room.
I'm not saying that.
Is that what you're saying?
I don't, and it could be done 2 different ways, right? We could look at this in 3 different ways. We looked at it first without even using peaking values. We just used the peaking factor. Now all of a sudden we have this information and we drilled down. And maybe they didn't use a section of the meter readings that was appropriate. Maybe they used a different section than Arcadis did. I don't know. But I'm not gonna sit here and guess and tell you it's right or wrong, or their report is right or wrong. I'm gonna say we're at a stage now, we need somebody to review it. And to do that, I need approvals from the commission to go ahead and move forward. And you need information from the developer that says, yes, we're willing to pay for the cost for you to move forward so that we can get our project underway. That's where I am.
Yeah, I mean, it's not unusual. In fact, it's absolutely usual that in engineering, you know, a guy does the structural design, and then another guy comes along and checks him.
But the first guy says it's gonna stand up.
Yeah,
They're
but
not
the
even
second
saying
guy
it's
may
gonna-
disagree.
No, I know, but this is not an affirmation. This is actually, they're saying
No,
it's probably,
no.
you're missing the point, Peter. This is somebody proposing a building that they say will probably fall down, could fall down.
No.
Now, all buildings could fall down, but they're
What-
right at the limit of, this
No,
building
what-
might fall.
No, what we're asking.
Not
Arcadis
reasonably
to
likely.
Do is to check their numbers.
But their numbers don't say it works. They're not coming in and say, wait, we've got it.
Who?
The applicant themselves says not reasonably likely to be at capacity. And we're like,
Well, I
let's
understand
look
that.
at it again. It's
I mean, but I
backwards to
mean-
everything
all
from
right.
we've ever done on planning and zoning.
Yeah.
The parking works. Well, let's just have another guy come in. They're not even saying it works. That's just, it's antithetical to me.
When you take a design in engineering, where there's a formula, right? There are safety factors built in.
Totally get that.
So,
Maybe they were too conservative. Okay.
oh no.
That's
I
a good
mean,
argument.
I
And
don't
Reese,
know.
you wouldn't see
But-
some of the back and forth between the engineers at the P and Z stage. You may hear about them.
You have no
but
idea
Craig
what
can
we
tell you
saw.
that it goes back and forth a couple times
Absolutely.
to
In
go
fact-
through the methodology and make sure that it's
Absolutely.
understood from both sides.
Yep.
Right? When it's all said and done, we want to make sure that the building stands.
It's checking the math.
You-
I get it. And the
you
method.
You could interpret this as they're saying, you know, we've done the numbers, and we think it's gonna be all right, but maybe you ought to look at it.
But that's not what they say, not reasonably likely is the standard
Well-
they've chosen. I think says enough for me, but I'm so perfectly fine if you think
Reasonably likely.
not reasonably likely.
Not reasonably likely.
You know, I had to study through symbolic logic when I took it in college, and it was not always easy to put this in a math formula and look at each piece of language and see if the conclusions are derived from the premises. But this is clear to me.
There's always a bigger storm event, stormwater, for which a system is not designed.
No, I get it, that's a black
There's
swan.
always-
It's outside the parameters of normal, I get that. And if you guys, I'm all for, if you think that spending money with Arcadis will come up with a more enhanced methodology and/or conclusions that finalizes this so that our fiduciary is met, that we're being responsible commissioners in making this decision, then I'm all for it.
I think information is power. I always appreciate more, clear, better information.
Can I clarify that? Good information is power?
Yeah, that's a great clarification.
Sorry.
I mean, there are things like, when it comes to the drain, it's raining, it's peak, everybody has a bathtub. And all at once, at that moment, they all pull the plug and it drains. And everybody in the town's done the same thing.
Well, that's why the biggest spike in the,
Halftime of the
in the
Giants
year
game.
time is,
Yeah.
no, it's the Super Bowl. Halftime of the Super Bowl is the highest spike in
That's what the water
wastewater.
company said too, for water use.
Well,
yeah.
I'm all for our case. It seems like just doing the math, this adds like almost 5.5% to that sewer shed, that flow at that location, just in the instantaneous flows. You come up with something like that. If you do it
if the
correlative.
builder,
Was .04 on.
if the builder pays for it, and Arcadis comes back and says, yeah, we think
No,
it's
that-
gonna be all right.
Isn't
Oh,
that,
okay, .04 on the .72, on that one, on Mechanic Street.
right, it's
Yeah, that's right.
5.5%.
Yeah, but on this one, the capacity is
1%.
significantly
So then are
more
we
than the
asking
flow.
how far is
Right.
It would be
Arcadis going to
this one
listen?
that was the hyper close.
That's the next
Okay,
question,
but this
Reese's
one's the one
question.
That was the 2.57 to 2.58.
Well, in the-
Yeah.
How far down in the system is Arcadis going to review this? Is it all the way to Stony Brook?
So that's,
In their
That's
report,
Reese's issue.
in the builder's report, they say that, you know, what were those words? I can't even.
Not reasonably likely.
All right, so Arcadis reads that and they say, I'm gonna look at that. I would.
to answer your question, we can ask, right? So we
Okay.
can ask Arcadis, beyond the two study points here, are there any other study points that you would recommend that the applicant look at because of your knowledge of the system?
And you could also specifically ask them, what is the likelihood of, compared to what they say? I mean, look at that.
But don't we already know that they're getting sewage in their basements over here? Over on, at the end of Renshaw Road? Doesn't that one poor fellow get?
Well, if they have backflows, they should.
There was a sewage overflow in a manhole on the brook here that I am recalling. Reese reminded me, yes.
There's more than that.
Okay. So we already know we've got a problem
But-
at least here.
The question is, is that spot downstream of that? Or is that coming down the post road before it gets into the pump
And
station?
Arcadis can tell us that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, the Corbin project is 11 times this, 12 times this,
But they should
13
be
times this.
factoring that in, correct?
They've got to factor it in. That's why I see them mention 2020 flow metering data, but I don't see any inclusion of projected flows from new construction that's already been approved.
So you're immediately, well, again, you're suggesting that there ought to be a third or fourth study point farther downstream.
And
I would almost say there has to be. It's just too much of an inclusion of new water. It's, like I said, I believe it's past 10 times the flow added from Corbin. I know it's like 50,000, theirs is 45,000, so that would be 12, 13 times the multiple of this project. So if you're gonna, you have to make sure that the capacity hasn't been absorbed or taken up by Corbin. There may not be the capacity down there to add more.
I would want to consider making a proposal that our engineers here amend this a little bit to include investigating further up the line toward,
Well,
and
so.
evaluating
Yeah. We have-
this.
But what I would say, and what we're gonna hear from the applicant in a second, before we're gonna ask for motions. Really, the reason it's on the agenda, as described by the superintendent, is does Ed have the authority to hire Arcadis, assuming it will be reimbursed by the applicant, to peer review this report from the applicant, and then we can add our, will you please look at these things to that request? Okay. That's what you're looking for, right, Ed? Okay.
Spot.
So, is there anything else anyone wants to say right now? I'm not saying we're hearing a motion or entertaining a motion. I would like to give the applicant an opportunity to talk now that they've
Right.
heard us all speak for a while.
Yeah, I hope it's been productive.
Well, I know, I think it's important for them to hear where the commission's at. Mr. Massey?
Thank you. I guess for the record, Attorney Robert Maslin, I represent the property owner, 7 Sedgwick LLC, and I'll introduce the people who are here. Chip Platts, who's the principal of the LLC, is over with his hand up, and you've seen Kurt Lowenstein and Andy Sumalides, both of Lantec in the past. They're here as well. If it's okay, I'll comment briefly on the discussion that just took place, and then I'll have probably Andy come up and just give a brief overview of you so you'll understand a little bit better what is in the written report. To put this in, if that's okay.
Well, do you think it's okay based on the discussion you heard, I guess?
Sorry?
Do you think it's okay based on the discussion you heard?
I would think so, yeah, just to kind of let you, because we've been at this for
Yep.
over a year now, or
Yes,
roughly
and this
about
is
a
the
year.
first time you actually presented us with
And-
documented
and-
information about your meeting.
That's right, but to put it into context, this started with the first zoning application last year.
Yeah.
And as part of that, we received an email set of comments from Darren. One mentioned that there was a potential capacity issue, and he mentioned that there may have been backups in Old Kings Highway North right in front of this site. So we embarked on an analysis of what the capacity is. And we based the initial work on general information that was available at the time. Not that it's your problem, but there were some changes in personnel at Lantec, and we finally got to where we were able to file. We withdrew the first application, we came back with the second application in January. We came to the Sewer Commission a couple of times already, looking for guidance. Now, one statement that I heard was, there's no cookbook for this. That was an understatement. It seems that every time a larger project comes in front of the Sewer Commission, there's something different about it. There's no set way of reviewing projects on a preliminary level. There's no application pending right now. This is basically a referral from the Planning and Zoning Department in connection with a pending zoning application. So there's no application form, there's no fee. We're here almost on an informal basis, looking for guidance. And for the previous times that we were here, we asked for more information, and eventually the engineers received the flow data down to, I think, the 5-minute intervals, which I think was really a critical piece of missing information up until that point. So some preliminary comments about capacity were really subject to drilling down on what the actual flow data was. And following guidance we got from the commission, you now have a report. We submitted it as you requested or insisted. We submitted it last week, and it's on the agenda. You've received it, and we were hoping to discuss it a little for further detail. Yesterday, I get a copy. At my request, Darren sent me a copy of a draft proposal from Arcadis that you've been talking about. We didn't know that existed. It's dated February, but we didn't know it existed until yesterday. What we have is now much more concrete data. Now we're down to actual flow information. We're dealing with information that's actually in the Arcadis report. So it's not us generating that, it's Arcadis that generated that. And we actually have the peak flows. That ×4 factor, I think, is what kind of throws this off. The other thing, there was discussion about this language not reasonably likely to result in, et cetera. The last sentence of the same paragraph says, the town has initiated an infiltration and inflow abatement program upstream of study point 2, et cetera, and concludes with the phrase, which will provide much needed additional sewer capacity than exists today. that may address this whole thing, but it's going to take discussion between our engineers and the Arcadis engineers about this project. Somebody suggested a moratorium. If somebody puts an addition on a house and adds a bedroom, is that going to result in a modeled or theoretical increase in flow? Would the moratorium apply to bedroom additions? Are you going to make single-family residential property owners and developers undertake full-blown capacity studies to build a new house with a couple of more bedrooms than the previous house? You could really get down to the nitty-gritty on that. I don't think it's fair to have this developer, where we're only talking about 22 units, pay $10,000 to have a full-blown study done, when we have an analysis that we did, at least before having Arcadis look at our analysis, engage in a discussion and see where it goes next. And as far as the cost goes, you now have a fee structure which until last week was yet to be posted on the town website. The fee for this is, we're starting at $11,000 once we file the application to connect. Where does that money go? Would it be suitable for that money to be used toward the Arcadis bill for this capacity analysis? After all, what we're doing is adding some load to the system. How much and whether or not that's going to jeopardize the system is another issue, but there's a pretty hefty fee involved. To add another $10,000 on top of that, I don't think is reasonable. I think the reason for these fees to begin with is to cover costs related to capacity management, ongoing updates to the system, et cetera, et cetera. I would note that this report does mention a couple of potential, not specifically mentioned, but it makes reference to some areas where corrective action is in the schedule, we think. And when that's done, it'll increase capacity. That's, I think, obviously going to reduce the metered flow compared to what's out there today, and it may solve this whole problem. So those are my comments, and if you have any questions, I'll have to answer them, but maybe Andy can come in and just kind of give you a little overview of.
Bob, is it more the size of that charge, up to $10,000 that your client's upset about, just the concept?
The fee is the fee. Every town, every
No, I'm not talking
WPCA
about
has
the
fees.
$11,000 hookup fee based on the water size increase, water line size. The $10,000 Arcadis would be charging.
That's an
Is it
issue.
the number that your clients are
Well,
upset about, or is it the concept of paying for?
Well, it's a combination of both, Reese. We just undertook an expense
I get that.
to do this analysis, which we thought was going to get us a long way. Now we're being told, staff wants us to pay to have Arcadis do another capacity analysis. I just don't think that's appropriate, especially in light of an $11,000 fee that's coming down the road.
Even if they aren't connected in logic.
A more logical, a more reasonable way, I think, to do this would be take the report, send it to Arcadis, have Arcadis review it, let the engineers talk back and forth, the same way we do zoning. Right, and Reese, you know that. We've done it that way for years. And see where it comes out.
Yeah, we usually backcharge the applicant for zoning.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Sure.
So
But
you
that's
would
just
say
a
rather-
review of the report, not a
Right.
whole separate
So
analysis.
limit the scope of the review to the report.
To point one on the draft. I mean, that's really
Don't-
what I'm saying. The bulk of the cost is in number two, I think, the capacity
Yep.
analysis. And then if Arcadis and the engineers reach the conclusion and you accept it that everything will be fine, then fine. If they reach a conclusion that it's not going to work, then why should we pay for an analysis?
Yes.
Which I think is where you were headed before.
Yeah,
You know-
I'm gonna just ask you this question as an attorney. There was a case out of Westport, Summit Saugatuck LLC versus.
He's the attorney, not you, right?
No, I'm not an attorney, believe me.
What's the name of it?
Summit Saugatuck.
Attorney Hutchison?
No, you're an attorney, I'm asking.
Oh, here's the engineer on that, so he could talk to you.
Yeah.
So what's your,
So
what's
we're
your,
there.
what's your question?
The concept of conditioning an approval on a future repair adding benefit to the system. And can we, as a fiduciary, anticipate the system will be better at some point in the future and give an approval based on that concept? It would seem that the case out of Westport would say that's not prudent legally as a commission.
Yeah, but let's hear from the engineer and
Well,
see
this-
what
well, I'm
they
just
do.
gonna-
I mean,
I
look,
know nothing
Reese,
about it. I didn't.
this is like,
Was
this
Red's
is
a
like
job, but it
Yeah.
wasn't mine.
other situations where you go to zoning and zoning says, we need you to fix the road. Move the stop bar, put a traffic signal in, coordinate the signals. We need new crosswalks. Whether you're allowed to require that or not legally, the developer may decide just do it. It's,
No, I get that.
you know, and you take care of that, whatever,
It's Whole Foods. at the
infrastructure
intersection,
issue
yeah,
that there
sure,
is.
that- I get it.
you can look at it the same way
And
here,
it's a
but.
dance, I get it, and I do believe the improvements that we're making to the system and repairs will be beneficial
Oh, sure,
massively.
of
And
course.
it's a ton of work these guys have done.
Oh, obviously. I mean, yes, there's a ton of work all the way around, you know, and it's work coming to these meetings too.
No, I know that, Bob.
You know, not that I don't like coming here, but it's just, we'd like to get some things done when we do, instead of, you know,
Yeah,
okay,
running
now you
around.
got this, now we have to do this, and try to move along in a measured pace in a logical way so that we actually get some reliable results.
That was my opening comment, is the methodology. We've got to develop something
Yeah,
reasonable for
and-
everybody.
and
It's hard on us, it's
Right.
hard on staff, and it's
So
hard on
the,
you.
so the reasonable thing is 2 steps. Item number 1 first, and hold off on number 2 until we
So
see where
you'd be
number 1.
comfortable with the commission referring this to Arcadis to review your report and limiting the scope and your
I
client?
sort of expected that all
Okay,
along,
great.
but I did not expect to have Arcadis do a full-blown
Got it.
capacity study and
Nor
then
did-
send
nor
us
did
the
I.
bill.
No, I don't either.
I don't think that's, I just don't think that's appropriate.
Maybe a separate question we have for them.
Because
second time.
you're getting
And
the,
we can hold 2 thoughts separately,
Yep.
the
Yeah.
review of your effectively land use application and its impact on
And-
sewers, and our needing to,
Philosophical.
philosophical questions and needing to develop policy.
Yep.
sure,
for the
and
future.
I also get back to, there's a pretty hefty fee here when we do connect, if we get to that point, and that's, I mean, that's a number.
I
That's up
don't
there.
believe in planning
That's
and
up there, too.
zoning that when we hire outside experts, it is somehow adjusts the fee that you pay to planning and zoning.
I'm sorry.
Or building permit fee.
Building
or-
permit fees, they're all separate, Bob.
Oh,
All
of course, yeah,
separate.
yeah.
Yeah, the way we thought about, and I think there's some language in the verbiage on the connection fees that the town created. It has nothing to do with, you know, if you have to make capacity improvements to the system, it's not now, we're not taking that fee on making those capacity improvements, right? So there's some language in there. Our thinking on the connection fee was that there is a significant value to the asset of the sanitary sewer system. And you are seeking a change of use, which is benefiting from that. And so it's a buy-in, right, to the recognition of the value and the cost of that system. So we weren't thinking of it as well, we're gonna have certain review costs associated with applications,
No,
so
I
we
get
better
that.
charge fees. you
I
know.
get that, but this is not a new connection.
It's change of use, it's
All
an
right.
intensification of use, and so if you look at that language.
Of course,
yes.
sure,
Yeah.
but the line is already there. It's in a
Yep.
commercial district.
Yep.
And, you know, all the considerations that go with that. This could be a 2-story commercial building with a significant amount of flow instead of a residential type development.
Car wash.
My guess is
I mean,
if
you know-
Arcadis focused on question number 1,
Yeah,
the fee is likely to be significantly less than $10,000. If you want us to pause and figure out what that answer is, we can. But it's not like saying, let's go review question number 1, you're gonna get a $10,000 bill, at least that's my.
no, it can't
Yeah.
be that high.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
reviewing something that already exists.
Yeah.
It's not reviewing the entire system and, you know, because you're going to benefit from that and so is everybody else upstream. I mean, that's really a consideration. So this developer shouldn't be required to pay for that kind of analysis that's going to benefit an entire section of town. I understand, they want to do something, they're intensifying the use and making more effluent come out of the building and into the system. But the full-blown study is going to affect everybody upstream on these legs of the system. So, Reese, if it's okay,
Yeah, absolutely, no.
Andy's here. What's the
You're-
name of
you're
that
in
case,
charge.
if you can,
Huh?
what was the name of
I
that
can
case?
give it to you later, Bob, because what, it's kind
Summit
of.
Development.
Summit Developer, all
Yeah.
right. Summit
It
Developer.
was an appellate case. You know it already, Bob.
Oh, go ahead, I'll come.
It was an 8-30.
I just got a couple questions. Can I?
Please come to the
Thank
podium.
you. Chip Platts, property owner and developer. I'm a small guy, one-man band, so, look, these costs. There was an email circulated a couple days, maybe 2 weeks ago from a Mr. Ginsburg. I don't know if he controls the sewer commission, because
I didn't get that, did you?
I got the email that
I didn't see it.
went from here, went from the sewer department telling, Mr. Ginsburg telling them they should be charging me a fee to do this study. And I'm like, wait, who runs the sewer commission? Does Mr. Ginsburg run the sewer commission, or
No.
are you guys running it?
He runs planning and zoning.
Thank you.
But if you watched previous meetings, we already had this discussion.
But
We've been talking
there
about
was
this
an
since
email.
October,
It was-
September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's just a heads
So
up.
looking to him for advice on how you might
So-
charge something back is,
The cost,
Yeah.
my question is, has the sewer commission ever charged anyone a fee to review any sewer? If they come in with an engineer, I paid engineering to come in, has anyone ever paid a fee? If they haven't paid a fee, you can start it, but after me, I'm in. I've been in front of you guys 6 times. You gotta understand, my clock ticked out because of, we had, someone from zoning asked us to come to the sewer commission to get an opinion to go back. So that was a year of wasted time, and then I had to reapply again, and now we've been coming every month. I've been watching, I've been laying back, and you guys have been doing a great job getting us the information that we need. If we would've got the information the first time, we wouldn't have been here 5 times, and then I wouldn't have to pay my engineer for 5 times, and my attorney for 5 times. So this is all building up. Again, I'm a little guy. I'm not a big developer. The train station, they did that units down there, 300 units or whatever. Did you guys charge them a fee? Or just took their analysis? What, time out. You just took their analysis
I have
and
no idea what
said,
you're talking about.
Federated.
Oh, okay.
took their analysis and said, okay. Corbin, did he pay a fee? I just want to know, because the thing is, you have these people coming in, doing a knockdown, doing a construction, tearing a home down from a 2-bedroom to a 10-bedroom. Are they paying a fee? So all these people that are coming online now are taking my capacity that I'm trying to get an approval for. So now the capacity keeps on building, and mine keeps on going down. It's a tough situation, people on the.
Just a quick question, the fee that you're worried about is the $11,000?
No, I don't have a problem paying the
Oh.
hookup fee.
The hookup fee,
Listen,
oh.
that's
You're
what
worried about
that's,
the-
I'm fine.
You're worried about
Review
the
fee.
engineering
You're
review.
you're changing precedent.
That's
You're-
Yeah.
There is no, you never charged a fee, now all of a sudden, I'm getting
Yeah,
charged a
to
fee.
answer a few of your questions.
So
One,
if I didn't get
in my
charged.
memory, you might be the first applicant that is being asked to pay a third-party review fee specifically by the sewer commission. It's done in the land use department all the time. This may be the first time that we've decided to do it. So that answers that question. Let me continue.
Okay.
I would say that is on the backdrop of what we've learned about the system in the last 2 years, we are under legal pressure to conduct very expensive studies and then engage in very expensive maintenance programs. So we have a different view of our system now than we may have had 3 years ago when the other projects you referenced came through. And so that's probably why we're more sensitive now and probably why we're starting this concept. Your points on kind of equity of application are well taken. I think they are relevant. You know, where do we draw the line? Is it a 22-unit development, a 10-unit development, a 50-unit development? Is it a 2-lot subdivision?
Is it an extra bedroom?
When a liquor store wants to become a laundromat, should we be worried then on a change of use that intensifies? So I think your comments on how it is equitably assigned are appropriate. I think we need to figure that out and take that into account, and that's probably why we need certain standards to say, well, this is the level at which X, Y, or Z.
I just think it's incredibly
You know,
hard for anybody
yeah.
to start the discussion, and that's something we've got to work out.
Yeah. Like on the stormwater regs, right, we set the bar at
Yeah.
1,000 square feet,
Yeah.
up or down, right, threshold.
Listen, I understand, and you've been pushing to get the information that we need, because we've been asking for it, and we haven't been getting it. And you have been doing your job and getting
I'm
this
surprised that you
information.
didn't ask for that. I would be surprised if you asked for information that was in the public realm that you didn't get.
I'll let them speak about that. So going back to the fee, here's my problem. If you all purchase something,
Again, you're
And then
talking
the-
about the consulting fee? Just so we're
yeah.
clear, consulting
and
fee, connection fee.
No, not the connection fee, because the connection fee is what it is.
Okay,
That's written, that's already done. I can't fight your connection fees, because everybody, you have a connection fee, that's what it is. My argument is the consulting fee. If you purchased the car, and you walked out the door, and you came back 5 minutes later and you said, you know what, we got this extra fee. And I've been here 6 times. I mean, how would you feel if you've been somewhere 6 times and then your last meeting I watched, you said, okay, we're gonna get you to 5-minute intervals, and nothing was mentioned about me paying any fees, and then all of a sudden we get an email saying, hey, you got a fee coming your way. You would feel like, wow.
I think we take your
Yeah.
point.
You
Right,
would,
so if you
I
have
mean,
to,
put your shoes, come over here, guys.
Chip.
You know,
Yeah.
that's all.
we take your point.
Totally.
We totally get it, and we will talk about it momentarily once you guys are done with your presentation.
I mean, just, if you're gonna do this fee structure, start it after me. I'm in already. I bought the car. I bought the car, I have the tires, I kicked the tires. It's done. The car drove off the lot. Don't come back. I just think it's unfair. That's all. Thank you. Appreciate your
Yeah.
time. Thank you.
Although those car contracts can be a little dicey too, but it's another different story.
Good evening. For the record, Andy Sumalides, Principal and Professional Engineer with Lantec, who created this report that I heard some scrutiny on, I guess. I want to clarify, I guess, some things. Or maybe even ask a couple questions of some of you folks. You guys have seen plenty of these reports. Do you guys feel it was done accurately? And how typically reports are done? Because one, I've done a lot of these reports. 2, we've been given examples of other reports done in the town of Darien to follow. So if you guys don't think this was done accurately or properly, that's one thing, using the right equations, the right methodology. I like to understand that. I guess that's a question that I have, if you guys all read this report thoroughly. Number 2, I think, to piggyback a little bit on Chip, I feel like the goalpost keeps moving a little bit, right? We came here, like Chip said, I wasn't heavily involved in the beginning. I did oversee it on the peripheral when Jim was involved. And we were told study point 1 and 2. Come do study point 1 and 2, come in and we're done. Last hearing, I was heard 5 gallons per minute we all agreed in this room, that was the threshold, we're gonna use those numbers and we're gonna try and move forward with a proposal. That's what we've done here. And now I'm hearing we need to study some points further down and study the whole town. And I don't know, I'm just feeling like the goalpost keeps moving. We're gonna send this to Arcadis now, and they're gonna disagree with everything we've agreed to for the past 6 months to a year of how to generate this report. That was the purpose of coming back and forth over the months and making sure we were on the same page. This is where we're analyzing these points. This is what we're doing here, folks. Let's generate a report and move forward. So I'm a little,
I don't recall the same history that you seem to recall.
okay, I'd like to hear from your point of view.
First of all, like this, the fourth night I remember you being before the sewer commission. The first time we simply said, well, we can't tell you it's okay to hook up until you look at our system and tell us the system has capacity. And that's as much guidance as we gave. And then it was a fair amount of time, 9 months or 12 months before we saw you again. You came, you had no calculations to present to us and simply said your system's undersized.
Correct.
Next night, we had some very basic calculation based on what I would say was faulted logic and faulted use of information, and kind of said the same thing. And it was given to us at the meeting, not before the meeting where we had time to look at it. So this is literally the first time in a year
Okay.
that we've actually been provided with something that has some meat to it to look at. So
Has this been done accurately, in your opinion?
I'm not going to make that assessment because I haven't studied it in that
Okay.
in that level of detail.
Okay.
And that's why I like the idea of having Arcadis do the peer review.
Okay. But study point 1 and 2 was given to us by your staff.
Okay.
So that it's not just you guys we've been going back and forth with, you have staff that we've been going back and forth with too over this time, and Arcadis, who's been giving us data along the way as well.
So again, that point is a fair point, which is,
Look, Craig, let me back that up then,
Go ahead.
because we didn't feel we had issues at those 2 points, so generally we picked the most conveying points
Yep.
where we feel that, okay, let's take a look at the sections, could possibly
Okay.
have an issue, but we've never had issues out there before. I think it changed when they came in and said, you have a problem here. Not only have a problem at point 1, but point 2, you have a big problem here,
yeah.
right? It only has capacity for 2 and you're putting in 5. See
Whatever it was.
So, and all of a sudden, you're sitting looking at a system that is undersized at 2 critical points. Well, what do you do next? You stop?
Although where this says is Mechanic Street's fine, and it's the Post Road site.
Now,
that's-
this report does, and
Yeah,
in the final
yeah,
report,
yeah.
now it narrows it
Not
down
the
to,
first- not the other
number
two.
1's good,
Yeah.
and we don't kind of make it barely at point 2.
So when you look at that, you say, is there something else we should look at? Which is Bob's point and Reese's
Yes.
point. What's
Right.
the right question to ask? But the general concept of what you're saying is what is appropriate for the applicant's burden in terms of study and analysis, and what is appropriate for the town's burden in terms
Correct.
of study and analysis.
Correct.
I think that's a
Fair question.
It's a fair question, and
Right.
there's a line that exists somewhere
Right.
there. And this is a little bit new for us, given the backdrop of the last 2 or 3 years, and we're trying to find
I
it.
get it.
So I appreciate your comments on that one.
Yeah, the Hiawatha project, just to touch on that Westport project, Brendan Sameen was actually the off-site engineers on it. We were originally involved, and now we're involved in the construction phase of that project. And you're right, they didn't let him, they denied that 830G application. It was an affordable housing application multiple times based on sewer not having capacity. The town, knowing it didn't have capacity, had to do something about it and fixed it, right? Regardless of how much they might have been against that application of an 830G there, the town's obligation was to maintain those sewers and upgrade the system for any future development in that area. So that's what happened. They did the sewer line.
I was only asking Bob a question as a lawyer, because the way I would read the fact pattern there, and again, I'm just trying to figure this job out.
Right.
We're all here for years, all of us decades on different boards. And what's the job? And that was where I started with that, and it did seem like in that case, there was ongoing prepared renovations to the system beforehand. And the trial court said, approve the project, and the appellate court reversed on the fact that it hadn't been done yet.
So that was all the way I looked at that.
Right, right.
And I'm not a lawyer, so that's
Right.
why having Bob's mind there and asking the question.
About the INI, you're saying in relation to our project
Can you
here?
approve something with
Right.
the concept of a future improvement?
Correct.
And fiduciarily, as a board, I think that those two cases, the appellate case and that says, no, can't, it's gotta be
Is
done.
phase 2 funded?
Our
Phase 2 for INI abatement, yeah.
We have the funding in place, we don't have the design or the actual street cost yet.
Was Westport done before they did the improvements? Was the project approved and built before they improved the,
No, they denied it at the courts until sewer was completed, then they approved the project.
and that makes logical sense.
Right. But to your point, yeah, this is in the pipeline, it is funded.
Yeah.
But if Arcadis comes back with, if they see something that there's more capacity here, I mean,
You guys
They could-
kind of for me, I'm not an engineer.
no, you raised some points, I get it, it's
have
at capacity and
a zoning background.
Right.
And my engineering comes from stormwater. And you're the ones who said,
So from, yeah,
hey, it's undersized.
So
So
from
I'm
a s-
thinking, but why would we, when we're supposed to be
Right.
looking after the public health, the interest
Right.
of the public, why should we say, oh, sure, go ahead.
because.
Go ahead and do
I-
this.
I think-
We know it's
Right,
undersized.
but Mr.
You've
Flair-
said it.
Mr. Flair mentioned this before. That is, or somebody mentioned it, that is the worst condition that ever happened, right? They're doing it from March till May was the study. The highest groundwater, the highest inflow and infiltration. It was one storm event that actually got that high. If you took the second highest, it's not even close to that. And it's the peak, right? It's like you design to a 25-year or 50-year, in Darien, 50-year, right? If a 100-year comes, your stormwater is gonna overflow. It's not designed to that. Whereas the threshold for sewer's basically pipe capacity. If it's there, if it's not, it's kind of black and white, in my opinion. Here, and it's not in this report, it's also a big drop manhole that's right before, this study point, right? So the effluent's probably, you're getting, and you don't do tailwater and sewer design, you do tailwater and stormwater design, but if you were to do that, you would see that there's probably some tailwater conditions that's pushing the effluent down, creating a lot more capacity than what this report.
Or headwater condition.
Headwater, I'm sorry, that's stated in this report. So that's where, there's other factors, I would say, that do make the system work better under normal conditions.
I was the one who initially said, I'm planning and zoning. We used to have these things peer reviewed.
Right.
I don't have the ability, first they say it's undersized, apparently now you're coming forward and saying, yeah, I think it might work. And I don't have the ability to say, gee, their numbers keep changing, I guess they're getting better information, I guess, maybe.
Who did the
I need
reviews
somebody
before?
else to review it.
Who did the?
No, your
review?
company, when you first came in versus now, you got the flow data and you
In
refined your
January.
analysis based on actual flow data than projected.
No, who did these reviews of these? You're saying you're not qualified to do
No,
them.
she's talking about planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning.
Oh, I'm saying this commission, who's qualified, who would have done these?
Well, that's why I
The last
suggested
application.
Arcadis,
If
because
it
Arcadis is
was
the
not
one.
a outside consultant, we would rely on the two professional engineers sitting at that desk.
Got it.
But I agree with you, you should shut down every application now. Every application going forward should be shut down until this is figured out. Because if I'm gonna get penalized, so is everybody else. And then, and if I'm the only one getting penalized, I have legal grounds. You understand? I'm just a heads up, but
Moratorium
I
would work
agree
for
with,
me, Mr.
no, but I
Katz.
agree with,
No, but-
I agree with you, but if you're gonna talk about it, let's shut everything down.
Okay, I'm okay with that. You have to
No,
understand,
but-
I would be okay with
No,
that.
I would shut everything
I'm one
down.
point.
They're up until a certain point, there's still capacity. It's his project that puts it over at the limit. So there's still some capacity even under your studies,
0.01 CFS.
which is
Right.
houses and stuff.
Okay.
Right.
Again,
I think we have some discussion.
I'm fine with Arcadis
to have
reviewing it
based
also.
on
We
what
do
heard.
that all the time. We do peer
Do you
reviews.
guys have any other
We-
information to provide us before we go back and talk as commissioners?
No, this is it.
Okay.
Well, can I?
If you have a follow-up question? go ahead.
Yes.
Sure.
So logically, you came in 2 months ago, you said it was over capacity. You came in now, said it's just at capacity, and you're upset that we want someone else to look at it when You know, when it's not stormwater.
No,
This
no.
is sewage.
Understood.
I can very much attest to what sewage is.
I'm not saying I'm against somebody reviewing my work at all.
Well, but.
I'm not saying that at all.
Just because we haven't
I'm
done it
saying
in the
somebody can
past
review it.
doesn't, you know,
Oh,
they
somebody
used to
can
shoot
review it.
horses when they broke their leg.
They
So I
can
mean,
review it.
it's,
They can review
us
it.
changing and
You
getting
guys-
better is,
You guys probably already paid Arcadis hundreds of thousands of dollars to do studies around all town. Now they want an extra 10 grand. That's the part that we don't understand. Why are we paying an extra 10 grand when they probably know your sewer inside and out, that the town's already paid for? They should know this inside and out. I should be able to hand this report. If I did Arcadis' work, you'd hand me this, and I could turn this around in a day.
and you're gonna do it for nothing.
No, not for nothing.
Okay, that
There's a
is-
fee, but
That-
10,000 is outrageous.
Obviously, they
Yes.
misspoke there saying it was
Well, that
just
was-
$10,000.
That's the only
The
argument.
maximum.
We already asked the question.
Okay,
Is it the size of the consulting fee
yes,
or the principal of the consulting fee?
no.
And the answer we kind of got was both. I, like you, know what consultants charge and agree that if their scope was limited
To
to
one.
this, that's not a $10,000 job.
Right.
And I don't anticipate that it will be. I think they just provided that as an upper limit budget,
Sure.
not knowing how much back and forth there might be or what, right? So I don't think we get anywhere by saying that that's outrageous. But do you have any other data or information to present to us before we talk again?
No.
Any other questions right now for
Did-
the applicant?
Were you aware that 2 blocks down from where your points were, there was an addition of there was a projected addition of 51,000 gallons a day?
Yes.
And you didn't think that that was an issue?
And they put their own separate lateral to bypass their point of concern. Yes, I'm aware of that.
They put their own they ran a new line,
All
but
the
they
way
still
further down,
connected
they're
to an
put-
existing line,
Correct. Where it's 18 inches rather than 15 inches.
but it's very flat.
Right. Yes, I know they added
And you didn't
50,000.
think that was of any concern?
That was not, we were told to do 1 and 2. Now, that's what we
I
did. I
mean-
understand what you're saying, yes. Could it be now, knowing what's going on now? We could go down the whole sewer line, yes. I mean, there's an issue here. The town has, I think, obviously you guys knew this way before we even got involved, or else you wouldn't be under the scrutiny you are to hire Arcadis to do a full in-depth report to get to where you are today. Yes, the line has issues. It's an I&I issue.
Well, also a grade issue. I mean, it's
Sure,
flat.
yeah, it's flat,
I mean, that's
for sure.
something totally independent of I&I.
It's at least one CFS that would be removed if phase 1 and 2 and 3 get implemented at our point of concern. That doubles the capacity.
But
From our Arcadis report.
It does, but I
Yeah.
mean, for how long? I mean, you don't know how long the pipe's gonna stay in that condition.
Well, yeah, with the liner and the grouting of the manholes, I mean, it's,
It's not a forever situation,
yeah, I don't know.
so. No, I'm just,
Nothing is forever.
but then what?
I don't know, honestly, I don't know what the life
Going to
capacity of
grade.
that is. I don't
And
know.
so you are going to start, you know, as Reese has alluded to,
Things-
you're only gonna
well,
get to
look,
so far of removal of I&I, and then you're gonna start to get more I&I from other situations.
What I'm trying to do here is collect information from
I
the applicant so that
understand
we can
that.
have a discussion. I will offer that things might change in the future is where you lose my attention.
Fair enough.
So just a quick snapshot, it sounds like the size of the consultant's back charge fee at $10,000 is absurd. It sounds like, from a professional opinion, it's not gonna even be close to that. So, and I agree with you, it's tough to be the first guy to have that happen, in a board that's never had it before, and it does seem like the goalposts have been moved many, many times, and you guys have done the best you can. But it also seems like your report says it's undersized. So,
Pending
that's a
the
snapshot.
improvements. Pending the improvements we're gonna make in 2
In
years.
some future time.
Yes.
So,
If I could just kind of wrap this up so you can discuss it. This is
Thank you.
sort of what I'm envisioning here,
Okay.
what I'd prefer. Send the report that Land Tech prepared over to Arcadis. Obviously, get a proposal for the cost to review that. Okay, so that's step one. When the report's over there and they're reviewing it, I'm assuming that they would engineer to engineer would have conversations to see where things are, answer questions, et cetera, and include the staff. And then we'll know. And when that process is finished, we'll know where things stand, and we'll be back.
Which is where we started.
That's fine.
Well, I think the $10,000
We're,
is excessive.
we're back,
I agree
we're
with
back
Ed, do you have some thoughts?
I do.
to decide the next
I
step.
agree with Mr. Maslin. I know it's rare. But I do.
Timestamp.
He's-
Wait, wait,
Write that down, I'll sign
It's on-
is
it.
this
we're on
being
TV.
recorded?
It
Yes.
is.
The only other thing I'd ask, and it's only because I know Jeremy does it too, with part of planning and zoning, that new proposal has to be approved by the developer and signed off that he will accept the charges. I think that's the only other thing that I would add to make sure it's
Yeah,
documented. That's all.
we could, so if you could ask the staff to
And-
have them revise that proposal to
just
delete
allow-
number 2, with an understanding that we may be back to that later, but at least let's see where we are vis-à-vis the report that's already been done before we take that next step.
And one more point, I did hear the developer behind me.
We haven't forgot about that point, and we haven't started talking about it yet.
And wanted to know if we, with the new proposal, do I need to come back with you for you folks to vote on it?
Okay.
I think that's a good point.
Okay.
But we could, we'll consider it and, you know.
All right, so we have
it's
a few
okay with
questions
us,
on the
then
table
you'll
for
have
us to
that, and then
consider.
we'll just go forward.
So,
Maybe, Craig, maybe the way to leave it is, in the interim, if we're okay with the proposal, then the
Yes.
staff is authorized to proceed.
yes, we could at least get you that
Okay.
far. I hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
Bob. On that point, I will ask, as a commission, do we, although common at planning and zoning, being the first application of the process here, is it fair for this applicant to pay that fee if we haven't otherwise made it clear to applicants that that may be something that they would have to pay for?
I think given that we don't have a process for this application process yet, no, it's not fair.
Okay. Susan, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I would have to go back and look at when I first raised the issue, in terms of all the timing of what Mr. Platt said of the, however many times he thinks he's come here. The other thing is, when we first learned about it, was when I was on EPC, and it was the Westport town attorney who brought it to our attention that it was statutory. Now, I don't know if
Who is
it's
permitted?
permitted by
Certainly.
statute.
Yeah.
So if it's there in the Connecticut General Statutes for a commission to avail themselves of this statute, I have no ability to assess this. And I'm
I understand.
particularly concerned when they're backtracking. And maybe it's because they got better information, that's very possible. I think 10,000 is a lot of money, but I don't know how much engineers charge. I feel that it's too bad that they're the first ones for
But
them.
you're saying, since it is something
It's
that's
statutory, it's something I am very familiar with.
then it's fair
And I thought it
for
was
us to
fair.
do.
Yeah.
Okay. Bob?
At first glance, I will say that it's such a close call as to whether or not there is capacity that I would have to say it is fair. Only because it's unlike stormwater. SSOs create a health hazard. And if anyone has ever had the sewer flu, it's a wonderful thing. So you don't want to deal with sewage if you can avoid it. So because of that, I'll say yes.
It's fair. Peter? Thoughts on the fairness of asking the applicant to pay for the technical review?
Well, there's statutory provision for it. But there's, in my mind, there's a matter of fairness to it. And I I would say that, it might, in my opinion, depend on the fee and what we're really, what that should be looked at and determined. Because, there might be another alternative that the builder might choose. Is this, in a way, such a situation that elimination of one bathroom would change the picture?
Well, so, I mean, on the question of fairness, so you're suggesting that it is a gray question, not a black and white question, given that we haven't previously announced that this is our policy. And on one sense, a large fee does seem a little unfair, but a smaller fee might seem fair.
Well,
Is that what you're?
now you brought up a point
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's in the statute, right?
Yeah.
We should put it out there in front, and we didn't.
As a policy.
But I would have to go back and look at, when did I first bring this up? Because I brought it up a long time
Well,
ago.
I'm just saying,
So I'm not
generally.
sure that they should
I
be
mean-
that surprised.
No, yeah, I don't think.
I mean, I might ask you, our attorney over here,
Let's-
did you bring it up to your client?
Let's stop asking questions. Trying to.
I know, you
They're-
want to
Did I,
terminate.
wait, I
Don't
can't talk
answer.
about my
We're
conversation.
either gonna say
Don't
it's-
answer
Client.
that. Don't
What was your question for me?
So, I mean, are you aware of that statute?
I'm not sure which one.
Well, the one that,
The statute that allows a commission to backcharge the applicant for a review, a peer review.
For a technical review.
Ira Bloom brought it up to us when we were on EPC
Who did?
years ago.
Ira?
Yeah.
And when, how long ago?
The same
Ira Bloom,
mechanism.
when I was on EPC, Bob.
We're
How
talking
many
about the
years
same
ago was that?
mechanism that
Would
allows.
that, would that happen to be in connection with
He's bragging about Coronacci.
a case that I might have be
That's when
familiar
we
with?
got to know Mr. Bloom,
Yes,
Attorney
yes, I
Bloom.
remember that,
He's
yes.
just
And
taking a
who-
victory lap.
Who prevailed
20
in
years
that
later.
case? Never mind.
Eventually, you guys did. However, it doesn't change the fact that he was correct in the fact that there was the statutory ability for a commission to,
I would, when he made that comment, and that's going back a good 10 or 12 years now,
Probably more.
20.
it was
More
not,
like
it was
20.
not, it was not in the statute.
You created.
That I know.
He created.
Since then, I believe one of the zoning statutes has a provision that authorizes it. But like any other regulation, the commissions have to adopt the regulation that implements that.
That's an argument.
right.
And,
Okay.
That's what
That's
I
and
wrote.
that's, I mean, yes, it's procedural, it has to do with due process
Okay.
and all of that.
So
So
here's
this
the.
would
I
be-
will look,
this would
I'll
be
look
ex
at the
post
statute,
facto.
I'll look at the statutes.
Yeah,
And we're, it would have to be in the WPCA statutes. And you're talking about 22A.
I brought it up a long time ago with regards to this application. From the very beginning, I brought it up.
but that doesn't mean, I mean,
But there's-
in essence, it would be, if we were to enforce it, it would be ex
Right,
post
yeah.
facto.
But there's really two things here. One is the cost to review our submission, that's one
Right now.
thing. But doing another whole,
we should do it under
paying
new
for another
business.
whole capacity
Immediately.
analysis for the town is
That-
the other question. And so you're really asking, and that's why the two-step process right now is probably the better
All right.
better way to proceed.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we might entertain a couple of different motions here, depending on the feelings of the commissioners, right? It seems like the motion is going to be to have, at minimum, Arcadis review this report. And the motion, I guess it would be, have Arcadis provide a new proposal specifically for the review and comment on this report, and some reasonable back and forth and report to the commission. And once that budget is reset, one way to do this is for the commission to say authorize Ed to proceed with that on the sewer commission's behalf. One version of that motion might be to authorize Ed to proceed with the applicant's consent to pay the fee. Okay? So, who would like to make a
Would
motion?
you like a motion? I'd make a motion that we authorize $2,500 for Arcadis out of the sewer fund to review this report with,
Well,
and verify.
why put a particular limit on it? It's coming out of the sewer fund.
Okay, well, why not let them run wild and just put it at 10 grand?
Well, no, no,
I'm saying
no.
25 grand should get.
It's gonna be less.
Hey.
What I would, well, we already have.
You know what this costs, I'm only
No, no,
weighing the
we
paper.
already have.
I'm only doing it by page, you know, like.
On
Keith throwing it up
the,
steps.
on the sewer commission's behalf, we already know we have 10 more questions. for
Okay.
them. And we're going to ask the questions because.
Well, maybe separate
It's
than
hard to stop. Yeah, well, but,
Separate time, separate thing. Do you want to
Yeah.
do this first?
So-
If Arcadis comes back and says,
so let's do a straw poll then. Are we
well, I
gonna-
made a motion, I'm
Yeah,
making a motion
okay.
that we authorize, you want to make it 5 grand? Up to $5,000 from the sewer
Yeah,
fund.
yeah.
Be paid
To review their
to
report.
review this report and report back to us.
Okay,
That's the motion.
it's a wonderful motion. Do we have a second on the motion?
Absolutely not.
That's a no. Second? No?
I'm not seconding.
Do we have a second?
I would second that.
Okay, so we have a first and a second, now to discuss. You guys are making the tiebreaker. Pressure.
Do it.
It's
like that.
We don't have a contract with Arcadis to help us either review this application, that's what we're talking about, or to work with us on our more philosophical regulatory questions.
Could deal with that separately.
Again, there's overlap, right?
Not
Kind So you want to
That's
stovepipe?
what you said, 1, not 2, 3. Just
Well, yes, but I was trying to, when we thought that it was going to be the applicant, I was trying to get to a point where we could ask the applicant to pay for one,
Mhm.
right? And then we would be willing to
Then you would
pick
vote
up
my
the-
motion down.
We would, which we're discussing right now.
You're
in the
thinking
discussion.
about it right now. It's very Socratic of you.
I want to move on, I'll tell you that much. I'm trying to move on for a
Got a
while.
motion.
I'm doing my best.
So,
But consensus is a little tricky beast. right
may I
now.
just say
Are you
something
chairman?
else?
We are in the middle of discussion.
If we were to accept their report as is, they would be over capacity and wouldn't be able to build.
That would be a very big decision, which we would have to apply equitably across a large area, a lot of users and a lot of
I'm
applicants.
just saying, if we accepted it the way it is, it states that it's
Whose problem?
over capacity.
Whose problem is the I&I problem? That's really the question.
It's not a question of that, it's a
Yeah.
question of, if we accept it, right now, there would have to be a moratorium.
Well, that's not the question on the table. The question on the table is.
I'm just
Are we going?
stating something, so
Yes,
that,
okay. Question is, are we going to pay for the Arcadis peer review? Or are we going to ask the applicant to pay for the Arcadis peer review? The reason I was trying to get to 1 was trying to make this number smaller so that maybe the applicant was willing to pay.
No.
To the extent that.
Motion's on the table, dude. Stop. It's like trying to order an off-menu item.
I am, I want the lasagna. Why can't I make my own darn motions?
The chair can't make motions.
Okay, well then I'll have an item under new business. Okay, so the motion on the table is for the Darien Sewer Commission to pay for a focused review on this report and come back to us up to $5,000 or less,
Yep.
should that be the cost.
Mhm.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hands. All those opposed to the motion, raise your hands.
I'd raise 2 if I could.
All right, that's 3-2.
It's healthy.
Well, I think that takes care of you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate it.
So that we can't leave tonight. We're not, basically, we're not gonna be able to leave tonight without going into new business.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
gonna have to bring this up.
I will consent, I will already consent to new business, but we'll get there.
Because that just blows my mind. We just blew $5,000.
I think we're gonna learn a lot, and I think we're gonna set a fair policy moving forward.
You probably saved,
Um,
you probably saved 10,000.
All right. Item number 5, Kensett Lane boundaries.
Oh, that's good.
You guys remember why this is on here?
Not at all.
And at the last meeting, the commission approved an easement. It's been signed by Monica, it's been signed by, the Board of Selectmen approved for the first selectman to sign it. Everything's in place. I believe we still have a bond for them that was taken at the start of the project. So I would ask that the commission authorize the release of the bond and also permission to consult town council, because there's a strong likelihood that the company doesn't exist anymore. And
Who you pay the bond to, you've had that.
yeah, I want to give the money back to the right guy. I know who the guy is, just want to make sure that it's all on the up and up.
You've had that with developers agreements, haven't you?
There's a developer's agreement, and then there's also a second phase to the project, and to refresh the commission's memory, the commission said, well, we already have a bond for the first half of the first section of the project, and the second phase of the project, the first one's done, that bond will cover the second one, so there never was a bond taken for the second phase. So really, are the first phase guys still around, and can we give them back the money? That's all. I'd like to just double check with town council, make sure it's okay.
Need a motion for that, Darren? I'll move that we authorize you guys to do that.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Yep, I'll make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion?
Reese,
Susan seconds.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Okay. Item number 6, 2 and 11 Phillips Place sewer user fee rebate, release of sewer users to
Can we do
the
that one?
city of Stamford.
Can I ask a question? Unless I'm mistaken here, there's a 36-inch line that's of 36-inch Stamford line that's in Darien. Is there an easement for
No,
this?
It's in Stamford.
No,
Oh,
no.
because the town line jigs.
Yes, so there's a 36-inch line that goes across 11 and 2.
You
This is-
asked that last
This is the
meeting?
town line. Yeah.
You said it and I
Yeah.
didn't realize what you were.
Yeah, and we looked on the map, I saw easement.
Yeah, we looked at the GIS. The GIS indicates something that would look like an easement. I don't know that we've done the property research, but
And that's all I had to go on. The representation of an easement around that, across those pipes for the sanitary sewer.
So is there a document somewhere that shows the easement?
I didn't chase it down that far.
It's also true that we have a Darien sewer on Stanford property. We're responsible for the sewer all the way to the Cove Pump Station.
I mean, I'm not trying to be difficult, but if something bad were to happen, and who's liable where, isn't it
Yeah.
a little easier to do it for $5 now than $5 million later on?
Well, we have had catastrophic problems in Stanford with our sewer, and we just went over there and fixed it, and they were extremely cooperative, made sure we
so
put the
your
kayak
point,
ride
Bob,
back.
is that if on either 1 or
If there was a break in that line
2
right.
or 11, there
right
happened to be a
there.
break right here, whose responsibility is it to fix it?
That's
And
their
I'm more
sewer.
thinking of the damage,
Yeah.
because you got
That's
the river
Darien
there
sewer.
and
What, you're saying this is Darien's sewer?
No, this is Darien
Stan-
property,
Stanford sewer,
it's on private property.
And so Bob is asking if there is any.
but it's in Darien.
It's on
It's
private.
not
It's on-
Darien, it's not
it's on
town of
Darien
Darien
property, you're right.
property, but it's in,
It is on
Yeah, it's
Darien
not-
property.
It's not property owned by the town of Darien.
Okay.
It is property within the municipal boundaries of Darien.
Hmm.
It is privately owned property by the owners of 2 and 11 Phillips Lane.
Yes.
And the pipe belongs to Stanford.
And the pipe belongs to
And there's a very good indication that there's an easement in that pipe. Now, if you want me to pull the deeds, I'll pull the deeds.
Yeah.
And look.
It sounds like you would be,
I mean, are we not doing our due diligence to make sure that there's an actual
The easement would,
paperwork for the easement?
the easement would not be in favor of the town of Darien.
Would be
The
Stanford.
easement would be in favor of the city of Stanford.
Yep.
but that would be good.
That'd be
That's
good to know.
fine, I just wanna know that there's paperwork there.
Yeah, we could just pull
It's kind of like we didn't have an easement for the sewer line that was right next to the historical society. Really, we need to keep try and get all the ducks in a row.
Was that the lateral then? Because it was on.
No, that was the main trunk.
Oh, right.
Don't you remember
Yes,
when
yes, yes.
Joe Spain came here?
Yep.
All right, so that's,
Just nits and gnats, but releasing
yeah,
the,
I think map 12, page 12 of 12 on this, you'll see the map. I think that's the easement on the rear property line. I could be wrong.
I don't have, do I have one?
Yeah, I couldn't, I'm sorry, I'm plus,
No, we don't need to.
plus 3 1/4 here and I still
you need
can't
a
see.
magnifying glass
It's the
then.
subject of their meeting.
You may have a better copy or the.
Well, I think we can release it either way.
Yeah, no, I'm not
And you're
saying
just
we can't.
asking for
I'm just
for
asking
if there is
for-
some documentation that confirms an easement to the city of Stamford.
We will get better documentation for next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
But in the meantime, do you need us to take an action to,
Well, you wanted the right names on the bills, the right road names, if I remember correctly?
yes,
Remember, because
because it said lane, not place.
Phillips Lane, yes,
Yes.
not place, and you said we should get our ducks in a row there, and
Yes,
Without being
And-
located
and
on
they
the
have.
survey.
yes.
But that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
All right, so we now know that this is for 2 and 11 Phillips Place, not Lane. And we now have the amount of rebate due to the property owners, given that they
No,
should be paying Stanford, not us. So, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion, we release those funds to.
Can I get a second? Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Who was
All right.
second?
And Peter.
Peter?
Peter was the second, yeah.
1,
Thank
2,
you.
5-0. Wow. Superintendent's report.
Okay, we got, our Old Kings Highway pipelining project is 99% complete. We just have the epoxy in the manholes to be tested. We're gonna start tomorrow and should be wrapped up by the end of this week on Friday, at which time we will be finished. Some incidental paving work that needs to be finished up. It's more crack sealing than it is paving, joint sealing around the manholes.
What do they do, pressure test that somehow with air?
Which
How do they test the epoxy around this?
They connect electrodes to it,
Oh, wow.
and gaps in the epoxy cause it to spark.
Oh, awesome.
So I'd like to
I'd
see
like to
that.
go see
That's what they
that.
told me.
Yeah, I'd
I
like to
wanna
go see
it.
that.
How cool is that?
They're looking for pinholes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
So-
very good.
So that'll, like I said, start tomorrow, then should be done by Friday. Going on to B.
Okay.
Phase 2, we are in the design phase. I'd say we're about 40% complete, 50% complete. They're moving quite quickly with this phase. We kind of had a lot of the front end stuff done for Old Kings Highway South, so they'll be able to use that going forward. We had our first meeting February 22nd to kick it off. So they've been working on it. We'll have another meeting, I believe, towards the middle of March, to the end of March, just to see how close they are to finishing, get some dates for bid. I think we're looking to bid it possibly in April. Bids in May, June, July start time.
That'd be fantastic.
So, and just to give you the other, I know I spoke to Lindsay today, and she did say she's sorry she couldn't make it, but phase 3 design, we're looking to kind of push this, so maybe before the end of the year, start that one as we're doing the construction of the.
As things get smoothed out with phase 2, jump in
Yeah.
on phase 3.
You know,
Is it harder to do the rehab in the summers with the high wet conditions from rain events? Or, because I know we worry about it in the winter, the cold, but.
You know, the
it's gotta
wet
be winter.
season's not in the summer.
All right,
The wet
more
season's
shoulder.
in spring
Yeah.
fall-ish, so
May.
summer is actually a good time for things to be dry, you hope.
Yep.
Um,
We should get those.
A couple years ago, we had some good rainstorms in July, so
Yeah.
there goes my theory.
Yeah.
So, it's hit or miss.
Groundwater is lower
It's
in
weather.
July and August
Yeah.
than it is in March and April.
Woodway,
Sure.
Hoyt.
Last meeting, the commission instructed us to release the CO we did for the Hoyt Street address.
Pool
We're
house.
we're still holding the Woodway CO because we didn't get the easement and the survey yet, as-built drawing.
Was the Woodway house didn't need a CO, did it?
Excuse me?
He didn't need a CO. He doesn't have any ongoing work, does he?
The Woodway does. He has an outdoor barbecue patio and a pool.
Oh, I thought the Hoyt Street one had the pool.
Yes, they do.
Oh.
And what Hoyt Street was looking for was a CO for their pool house.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the one on Woodway isn't doing a pool or anything. He has no open permit for a CO, needing a CO.
He
does
has a pool too.
Oh, does he?
Yep.
Both of them.
So he's got skin in the game. He'll get it done.
Apparent, we've been told he's just waiting on the surveyor.
Oh, cool. Yeah, they can be backed up sometimes.
All right, D.
We would have been done by now.
Reviews of our CMOM and our SSCS reports. So included in your packet, you'll see I gave you a copy of my final letter regarding the SSDS report.
That was sent a couple of weeks ago. Did we get any response?
I'm sorry?
Did we get a response?
Not from this one, no.
Okay.
It was a nice letter, Ed.
We tried to keep it short and sweet and try to wrap this thing up. So we're done with that. I'm gonna be sending the report up to DEP for their records. The only thing I don't believe they get to comment or will comment on it, other than the fact that they've accepted it. The CMOM responses, and next month we'll do that presentation if that's okay with you folks. I'll invite her in.
That'd be great.
We did respond to the Save the Sound review of their third-party consultant. Arcade has provided us their responses. I reviewed them with our attorney. I don't know if I thought I sent them to you.
I did, and we
Okay.
had a conversation.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure, moving forward, I sent them back to Save the Sound with a cover letter stating that I think we've kind of took care of everything they'd asked for. We'll make the changes in the report, and I really don't think we need to meet on this. Haven't heard back from them. I did get a out-of-office response from one of their attorneys, and she's going to be out on maternity leave for a while, so.
Okay.
With that said, I don't know if I'll hear back or not.
Congratulations to her.
Looking forward to any response, but as soon as I do, we'll try to wrap that one up too and put that away. And now we're gonna just hopefully be moving forward with just our annual reviews with Save the Sound. Though they did ask to participate in some other stuff with Stony Brook, I will make it part of the annual review process that they get updated on that
Yep.
as part of it.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
I know there's not an ERNF, but just two quick things I'd like to talk about, if
Go
that's
ahead.
okay? And then we'll hop into new business. I know Bob is anchoring to get into that.
No, I have questions on that.
Okay. The information deadline, I know, Craig, you had mentioned last week, Thursday at noon time, we cut everything off. We stressed a little bit out this week because, to be honest with you, that Land Tech report came in at 11:15. I'd like to push it back to end of business on Wednesday.
Oh, fine.
Because we don't work Fridays, and
Fine.
it's getting guys to
Anyone
come
have
and
a problem with
deliver
that?
everything and get it out.
Nobody has a problem with that.
Are you folks okay with Wednesday,
100%.
business on Wednesday? Okay, thank you.
I don't know, well,
And the last piece is our, the Stanford WPCA director reminded me that our agreement expires June 30th of this year.
The contract again?
It does, yes.
the 5-year,
I have a 5-year option to pick up.
Are you kidding? It's gone that quickly?
No, I told them time flies when we're having fun. So
Wow.
I'd like you to think about,
What sticks out to you, the crossings?
I'm gonna send you folks the agreement,
Yeah.
okay?
Oh,
So
God.
you have a chance to look, if there's anything you
I know.
you want me to bring up and talk to them about,
I can
many
already
pages
see
is
it.
this?
It's a
not too bad,
number.
actually.
I know it's a number, and I'm toying with that. But Bill Brink had asked if there's anything, other than just renewing it for 5 years and moving forward. if there's any things that. we would
So
like
if you'll send that to
modify.
us this week,
I
we'll
will.
get you any comments we have between now and the next meeting.
Okay.
Do you see anything on their end that's changed that they're gonna focus on differently than they
Yeah,
did 4
they're
years
just
ago?
developing the heck out of Stanford,
Yeah,
which if you do the math,
yeah,
their flows go up.
yeah.
We continue to do our I&I work, our flows go down.
If that's really
Point,
probably
there's
the
one
only thing,
number
but-
we gotta
Oh,
look at.
yeah,
But we also have the crossings
do
now
you-
metered, so we have an idea, and they're less than what
yeah, well, but.
the worst case was gonna be.
To
That's
that
good.
end, do you have, over the last few years, their total flow and our total flow, so we can understand where we are as a portion of what goes through that treatment plant?
Yeah.
Are we at 13.2 or 14.7 or
I get it every year.
11.1?
I have to get it every year to do the invoice.
Yeah.
So
if you could maybe
want to see
just-
that number?
Yes.
Yeah, the relative
So I'll
number.
give
We'd
you-
love to see
I'll
that.
give you as far back as I can get.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Go
would
back to
be,
14.
because, one question is my mind is, do we push on that now, or do we just suck it up for 5 years and push on it in
Yeah.
5 years?
Is there a visible trend?
Yeah,
In terms of?
yeah. I mean, is this the time that we should be pushing on changing that number, or should we just accept it for the next 5 years?
Yeah.
You don't even know what the numbers are!
That's a good question.
I will highlight the year that we changed.
Go
and
high,
added-
settle for middle.
Oh,
Yeah, you
such
go-
a painful
Come to
process.
fair, just fair is fair.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
have actual numbers.
I said to go
These are
low
engineers.
4 years ago. If you
I
recall.
think I was here.
Oh,
I'm gonna
Drawing a
include
blank.
a data line when we added the additional crossings.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that you're gonna see that it does jump up, but.
What it wiggles
it's- It's working its way back down. So I'll give you that information. And then,
It could be presented in a cooperative manner, in that we should have an incentive to aggressively go after our I&I.
Yeah.
And,
we
uh,
did knock it down. We went from
Yeah.
12.5 to 12.
but if we can only get to a certain number and no lower,
That's right.
we've lost some of our incentive.
Yeah.
And wouldn't they want to incentivize us?
You
For us to be ecologically friendly,
Or just,
Fiscally
put less strain on their treatment plant.
ecologically friendly.
I mean,
Whatever.
After a while, we're gonna hit bottom anyway.
Sounds like
We're
tastes
not-
great, less food.
Somebody said, we're not gonna get to zero infiltration, so there's gonna be a.
So anyway,
I'll settle
knowledge is
for
power.
9.
I'd love to see the numbers. What else?
That's all I have for you folks. Thank you
Could I
very
add-
much.
Darren
could I
has-
add gee, Commissioner Hill has been reappointed.
Congratulations.
I told them if, the meeting was last night, and I asked them if.
They wanted to
were
watch
voting.
tonight before voting?
Yeah.
Do they have an Oscar for this kind of thing?
We should have an award show for
Right?
town volunteers.
Couple of quick
Something
questions.
I should do.
Nothing on 246 Norton Avenue?
Be funny. Golden gavel.
No.
Okay. And 7 Sedgwick was originally here in January of 2022, is that correct? Because I want to go and, I want to watch that meeting, because they're holding us the stuff we said there, and I want to be able to
January 2020.
quote chapter and
When was
verse.
the first time Bob came to us and
think so.
said, hey, we got this project,
I
can
don't
we hook
remember, I
up?
think so, though.
It was a while.
It was over a year ago.
Yeah, and then it disappeared. I mean, things happen,
I
right?
guess,
Disappeared. and then-
could you have, were they on the agenda?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we'll have
could you
it.
just have Penny look at the agendas and tell us which one to look at?
and then just one other question. Federal, do their connections get inspected by us, or do they have an on-site engineer, or?
We had inspected all the way, all the way to the manhole coming all the way up to the building.
Okay,
We
'Cause it
didn't-
looks- I mean,
From the building to the manhole connection,
so it looks like, I'm assuming since it's all paved, all the buildings are connected, so they're all being charged?
I sure would hope so.
Yes, and
I don't know
We've
how many
also-
water, what is there, one water?
I know that Anthony's also been inspecting the grease traps for the restaurants that are there, as well as the sewer. And I know Anthony's also been working with the building department, because at one point there was some lights that were installed over the sewer, and we made them move them.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to,
Couldn't see the manhole.
if you have a problem, you don't want to.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, we're involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me check with Penny on
and
the
just-
charging, because I know her and I spoke about 2 months ago, about getting the proper addresses and the proper units and how we were going to send the bill, because they
Yeah,
don't have
I've
separate
gone
water
to,
meters, they have one water meter for the certain buildings.
yeah, that's
right?
ugly.
So we're gonna have
But,
to
so,
figure out.
yeah, I want to address that,
By building.
new business.
What are we addressing in new business? Okay, are we done with the
Something we
superintendent's
had
report?
talking about last month.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I would like to go into new business.
I'll make that motion.
The nature of the new business I would like to talk about is policy, making it clear that we can charge consultant fees to applicants. That's your new business.
The same new business that I had last month about being
how-
able to charge buildings that come online mid-billing cycle.
Okay. So that's a motion.
Motion.
You second. All those in favor? Okay, we are in new
Who's
business.
first? Hill?
Sure, Bob,
Hill,
if you go first.
Hutch?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, can I just make the proposal that I have and then we'll discuss that? My proposal
well, I
would
didn't
be,
get it on Wednesday end of business, just to let you know.
Do you want to put it on the agenda next month?
because it was in my head. My proposal would be that you take the projected flow using the DPH calculations, take 66 2/3 of that, and then prorate that for the amount of months that the building is online. And that's how you bill them for that year. And at the end of the year, if they so desire, they can come back and discuss it.
Do we need to put that down on the agenda?
Yeah, I
Something
think that needs
discuss?
to, I don't think we can,
Yeah.
let's say I don't feel comfortable acting
No,
on
no.
that under a new business item that wasn't on the agenda.
Let's put that on the agenda for next month to talk about how we bill a completed building mid-cycle of having no current water usage.
Okay, I really wish you'd mentioned that when I brought it up last month. I would have got the proposal in by Wednesday.
And I guess the question, and this is another question, right? We are we have the authority to assess.
We
which
have
is
the
effectively
charge to-
what we
we have
do
the
through our
charge to
user
charge.
fees. And we have regulations for how we calculate user fees.
Yes, and if a building is sitting empty, we still charge, if they were gonna raise, say they were gonna raise this property right here,
Yeah.
and it sat and wasn't disconnected for a year, we charge them a minimum,
Minimum.
because they have,
Even though there's no flow.
they've acquired and kept the ability to use the sewers. These new buildings, whether they're occupied or not, once the sewer is connected and the water is connected, they have achieved the ability to use the sewer. So they should, in my opinion, be fairly charged for that possibility.
Okay.
And you use the 2/3 multiplier as sort of a way of being fair, that they might not be fully
Like
occupied.
assessed value
Yeah.
versus
Yeah, I
appraised
mean,
value or whatever.
I just, the
Gives
prorated
them a buffer.
2/3
Yeah.
number, I just thought it was a reasonable number. I don't think.
Yeah, no,
I think right now.
If we do it, I agree that it should be scaled down, because I think
Yeah.
those
I
other
think
numbers
right now
are
Penny
inflated.
is shooting fish in a barrel,
Yeah.
because it's all over the place. So I think you need to have a definitive
And
policy.
I seem to perceive some wheels turning over there. Do you have anything to share, or you want to
I
continue to let the
Think
wheels
about
turn?
it.
Yeah, let me dive into it with Penny to see where she's starting to struggle a little bit more with the newer buildings, and
Yeah.
because to Bob's point, he's right, we're missing, there's a gap we're missing, right? There's a
Yeah.
section of time we're
Revenue
missing on
gap.
these buildings
Yeah.
that we're paying for.
Yeah.
And to be fair, maybe there's a different way to prorate it, maybe 2/3 sounds fair, but maybe there's a different way
Look
to
at it.
look at it.
Could be 50%.
Month-wise or something.
Yeah.
And it really goes back to what do you base flows on, right? What are your numbers? Do they give you water data? Is there sewer analysis that was done? Maybe we use those numbers. There's
There
a
is.
better way to get at it or something, but I agree, we are missing a little bit of it, and to possibly get it. What I don't think may be fair is somebody owning that business, we apply
Aggressive.
A number that's, prorated down, and then expect them to come back here and appeal. I think we should.
We'd rather shoot a little low.
We should,
Yeah.
maybe get a little closer.
Maybe
to
50% instead of 60.
Well,
But let's look at the numbers.
If he starts, 9 months or 3 months into the cycle, right, we've missed him, but he's gonna use it for 9 months, so,
Yeah.
maybe it's 2/3, or maybe it's 3/4 at that.
Yeah, and maybe we check it a year or two from now. see
But it
how
also
flows out.
becomes an issue whether or not, you have a building, the building's the size of Federal and they have 1 meter in the whole building. So that means the whole building gets charged $268.34. Would be the minimum, so I mean, if you're doing that, so I mean, that doesn't make any sense either.
You're trying to find a fair
Yeah.
spot.
Yes,
I think we
and
did it all.
what I'm saying
Mixed
is,
use is even harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything
I know.
We have restaurants and we have
But-
residential, right?
but there's the formula is 150 gallons per day per bedroom and 0.1 gallons
Matthews,
per
face
square
up.
foot for restaurant or retail.
And-
So what do you do for areas that are vacant
Yeah.
versus occupied?
What do you mean vacant?
They don't have a leased apartment, it's when the apartment gets leased that you might.
So you
turn
might
it on.
have a bunch of commercial space, but there's
Yeah,
only
it's vacant.
2 stores open.
Vanilla
But don't
box.
they have the ability to use?
So are they gonna, but do you?
Yeah, but when
store.
do you start
There's no
charging?
CO for the
When-
store
When do you
that
charge,
would use the-
yeah, when do you start charging
Yeah.
on the
Like
retail
I think
side?
it's when it's occupied or COs, when COs are.
CO on the
Yeah.
internal space.
Yeah. I think so.
But they're
And-
using it before they get a CO. You know they are. You know the contractors are
You mean like
using
the
it.
painter and the?
Yeah.
We could figure that out. The 50% might cover that.
I mean, water, you can't hide water use.
Right.
Goes through the meter, goes through the meter.
I mean, the other way would be to retroactively charge them after the fact, but they might have sold it, like your bond, figure out who owns it, so it's something, we could come up with a number, and if it doesn't work, we could change it.
And I think it deserves some input and discussion
The
from the
minimum,
person
yeah.
doing the building right now, too, to see where she's running into that problem. And I can tell you she's running into a problem because of the addressing.
And
of the buildings.
and I think
Yeah,
it's not inappropriate to involve the property owner
Yep. So maybe have a public hearing on that,
or something, some discussion.
Yep.
Anyway, as much as I should say about it.
I want to bring up something, just a nit. One thought that I had is if we could correlate electric use daily to rain events, we might be able to sniff out some sump pumps. So I called Eversource and I said, do you have daily data on use? And this is why I need it. And they did laugh at me like Ed's laughing right now and say, no, we give out monthly bills, but we will head to a point where the grid will be so stressed they'll not want to know daily use. They know it, but they're not going to reveal customer data to us on a daily
Do
basis.
they
that we
have smart meters, like they don't?
Yeah, they
Where
do.
they don't have to drive a truck around anymore?
They do, and I know my solar, every 15 minutes I can tell how much it's produced and which way it's going and all that. So we're headed there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought you guys would find that both funny that I had enough free time and motivation to see if something so outside the box could, other than
That's
smoke
honestly,
testing.
I'm gonna give you
Spot
kudos
on.
for that, that's genius, right? Like if.
Genius only if we can do it.
Well, here's 172
Wow.
properties that every time it rains,
Yes.
their electric bill doubles.
That's what I was exactly thinking, like we look in the lowland areas that might, or office buildings that we've suspected and see if there's this, and you know how much a sump pump produces, you could almost correlate it based on rain events, so anyway,
Great. Well,
he's
we need-
laughing. And
I'm
the
not-
answer was no, because we don't do
Peter's gonna have
daily.
to calculate the watt hours used by an average sump pump.
Maybe.
I know that would make you laugh.
We're gonna get him the spreadsheets. All right, second item on new business was the idea of creating, of overtly announcing to potential and future sewer connection applicants that the commission reserves the right to charge that applicant for a technical review of a sewer connection report.
And reference the state statute.
If
If that applies to us, like, so I'm kind of
we're
saying.
outside of that, yeah.
Or we're not zoning. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
just in zoning or if it's
Well,
townwide.
do
I
we
think
want
it
to
might
ask
be
town,
townwide.
want to ask town council how that might apply to us, and just throw it back at that?
Well-
A motion to ask town council?
Although we can also create our own regulations. And we can create our own administrative policies. it would be fairest to revise a regulation, have it documented after a public hearing. I think that's the best way to do it.
To open a public hearing.
But in the meantime, establishing an administrative policy that's in the consensus of the commission,
Yep.
we should at least do that, and then we can talk about steps 2 and 3.
What was your wording again, please?
It was complicated. We can
No,
back-
because he's saying reserve the right. I would say with the percentage of capacity that we have left, I think it's a necessity that it's just a question of how big of a project. They
Okay.
all need to be reviewed.
Okay, so how big of a project needs to be reviewed?
I would say 6 units plus.
Okay? Anyone have any other thoughts? Yes, sir.
I want to throw something out there too. If their report had come back and said
Yeah.
that our pipes were fine and our capacity was at 50%, would we have gone to a third-party review?
Their first report?
And it's,
Yes.
No.
Their very first
No,
report, the
but
one that came
they're-
in and said.
It
Didn't-
seems like
doesn't
smoke and
matter.
mirrors.
Right now, any of them, because they all say that we're short on capacity and all things. But if the first one was.
So let's say
they
it was
came
the first
in
one.
And said
We
we
have
have
a-
a
we have a-
serious problem, would we have been talking about a third-party review?
No, they came in and said we have a problem.
Which elevated the whole situation and review of.
I think, to answer your question, I think there is a threshold at which, that's a good question.
They're moral questions.
No, I agree I agree now that it's come up, that
I'm on
it's definitely
TV and
something
I
that should be looked
stop
at.
myself.
Because we've been
I mean, the board is a living,
We've been
breathing
doing-
thing, and it
right.
should evolve. And I think it should evolve to peer reviews on every application, 6 units or bigger.
thanks to the Save the Sound litigation, we know we have a problem. Maybe we knew we had a problem before the Save the Sound litigation. But now we don't want more Save the Sound litigation. Is that not correct? Does everyone agree?
I want to have a healthy system with plenty of capacity.
Exactly.
Well, I think that this was special in
And-
that it was right on the line, and they basically sent us 4 engineers' time here. One guy came twice, and 3 engineers probably said, you're there or you don't have enough.
Well, so
From the
Ed
applicant,
asked a
so
good
it's
question.
unique, yeah.
If, the question is, if it was all hunky-dory, would we ask for a peer review? It sounds like, at least there is some thought that on any appreciable size application, we should get one.
We've been asking for them. Didn't we ask for Old Town Hall Homes? A capacity
Well,
study?
yeah, on big
Always-
projects,
always
we've asked for a
Right.
detailed capacity study.
Yeah.
And if the capacity study was gonna come back and say, hey, you guys don't have enough space, why would we even be reviewing the application? That's sort of where I'm
So
coming
when
up
do we
with this one.
require the,
Why aren't
when do we
waiting?
require the peer review?
I mean, I think the best part of bringing in, the best part of being sued was that we've learned a whole lot about our system now, right? We understand where our problems are and where we don't have problems. We understand when we have the problems during wet weather season. This is where our big problems are and we need to tackle those. Every conversation I've had with Arcadis is our dry weather flows, our system is fine, right? So going back to, I think, the conversation between Mr. Maslin and the commission was, if the problem is wet weather flows and it's a problem with your system, can you tell them that they can't build? And I can tell you that in previous applications here in town, there was a project that, no, you couldn't stop them from building.
Who said that?
Who said that? Darren?
You want me to say it?
Yeah, please go ahead.
For sewer, they couldn't stop?
Correct.
Overlander Drive,
Which ones are?
Office buildings and
across
residential.
from Trader Joe's,
Um,
there was a development there. And
Oh, that was
we,
behind, yeah.
Okay.
the commission asked us to go to town council, and town council said, yeah, if there's wet weather flows and that's the only issue, then that is your issue. You can't stop the development from going
I
forward.
would disagree with that 100%.
Isn't this
It's a
not a
health-
public
it's a
health?
health
It's just an opinion you paid for.
That would make you an attorney.
No, it wasn't.
No, but it's a public health, health
Yes.
issue.
This is the standard. The next step in the capacity evaluation is to identify the location of wet weather-related SSOs, surcharge lines, basement backups, and any other areas of known
capacity limitation. It's wet weather flows. This is the EPA.
I should definitely check it, but it doesn't make the applicant responsible for the cost of repairing our system, and it doesn't preclude the applicant from going forward with their application, right?
And there is I mean, I hear you,
I
but
think
there
I
is a
was
difference
mentioning
between a
that before.
US EPA policy and whatever state
Yeah, but
Connecticut law.
and that's why I kept asking, so we make this perfect system where people are
Wait,
slamming their
wait,
sump
wait.
pumps in there.
Look, history of judicial action is always for more intensive use of land. Period.
And that's why I pulled up,
And that means.
Peter,
and
that's
that
why I
means-
went to.
And that means that eventually, if you want to build and people want to build, eventually, I'm not saying who pays for it, but the town has got to undertake an expansion, although the businesses or whomever may eventually have to pay for it.
That's one argument. I don't agree with
It's not an
you.
argument, that's the law. Well, then you go to, you
But
go
you
to
know what,
court,
Peter?
you go to
That-
court, you go to court, and you'll see decision after
And you know
decision
what?
where
The-
they have.
the first thing with-
Where the judges have said, yes, you can build.
And I'm gonna show you an appellate court case where they basically turned down an 830G, approved at the trial court level,
Okay.
and reversed on appeal
All right.
in that those repairs had not been done yet.
Guess what?
So it's a moment in
There'll
time.
be 3 other opinions that go against that.
Find them.
We can't,
I'd
And it
love
wasn't
to,
the-
because
it
I've
wasn't
been
the-
trying to
it wasn't
figure out
Superior Court
my,
either.
my compass.
but I mean,
And that's
All
all.
right, let
But
me,
where does
let me,
Save the Sound come in with their litigation then?
All right,
I'm
hold on,
sorry, why
hold
don't we let them all just fight?
I want to just dumb this down for the sake of getting something in place quickly, and letting us talk about a
I
very
think we need
particular
to put it on,
standard.
we're the same
Yeah,
as the other
but
part.
what I would
on
like
next
to-
month's
You want to
agenda.
narrow it to just expert, back charging expert.
What I want to say right now is that we immediately overtly document that it is our administrative policy in times when the sewer commission feels that a thorough peer review is required, we can engage that peer reviewer and back charge the sewer applicant.
And I think it should not be limited by 6 units, 5 units,
No.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
when we feel that
For
there's an
now.
issue.
For now.
Right.
For now.
I'm okay with it.
you might add, in accordance with Connecticut general statutes.
If we can find it.
So would somebody like to make that
Whatever that is.
motion?
I'll make that motion, please.
And I will second it.
Okay. Any further
As a
discussion
policy
on that
board.
motion?
What?
Yes?
Who's making that determination?
We are.
The board?
The
board,
commission.
the Commission
Yeah, I
is?
don't-
So you want us to bring every project to you to tell us?
There you
what
go.
to do?
Yeah, see that?
I thank you. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah. See, that's why I
Well,
tried to
does
put
Jeremy
it.
I think
refer
that you
everything to
can-
you? Every application gets referred to you by Jeremy, by
Any
Mr.
sewer
Ginsburg?
connection needs our approval.
New connection.
New connection.
Not-
Well, no, existing.
And then
that-
intensification
that
of
could be
use based on the building permit.
Intense use.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's an existing building. and
We
they're
evaluate it right now
changing the
case
use.
by case.
What-
And this one raised to a certain level
All right,
because
so-
they told us we have a problem. After we told them where to look to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
And that's generally how we start the conversation. Now, it goes third party because the best person to evaluate the issue they call out there was our case. So, I'm sorry, Craig, please.
Okay.
But where does
Okay,
that leave?
how about we?
I do want to empower staff
To
to
inform applicants
advise
of the possibility,
applicants. Or, yeah,
the likeliness based on
yeah,
scope.
but ultimately, you're going to have, at the next available meeting, we'll have some proposal from our consultant to, yeah, I think it's going to be, so
Could staff
you can
make-
see it coming
We
and make the
reserve-
call.
It's the same thing with
But yes,
EPC
it's
and
going to be at a
P&Z.
meeting that we approve the peer review.
We didn't, every EPC application didn't have peer review or
No.
P&Z. It was based on a case-by-case basis and the
Absolutely.
sensitivity, not always the scope, but the sensitivity and the likelihood of needing
Location.
expert
It could be
opinion.
location too.
Could be location, could be everything.
Well-served sewer area, or we could be downtown where we know we have some issues or we're fixing this.
Yep.
So yes, motion, I guess.
Well, and part of
stands.
that is,
Sewer commission.
just so you understand, when a land use commission is presented with only one opinion, they have no choice but to take that opinion. That's the whole value of getting an independent study, because if the independent study, peer review, comes in differently, then the commission can choose which expert
And weigh the experts.
and weigh the experts. That's true for applicants. It's on EPC, I used to tell people, don't get a lawyer, get yourself an expert. If you bring in an expert that has a differing opinion from the applicant's expert, we can choose to go with your expert. But if you don't bring anyone in, then we're forced to go along with whatever the applicant's brought in. I mean, that's just, so it's a different
What if we did it backwards?
standard.
What if we said that it's necessary in every one, but the
No.
commission can decide not to do it?
Nope.
Doesn't matter.
Again, and I want to set a policy for right now, and I want to set a better policy in
I think
in a
it's
few
just,
months when we have
if
time to think
staff
about it.
informed applicants
Okay.
that it was possible,
Yeah.
there wouldn't be the guy coming like tonight, I didn't know. And he
Yes.
felt like, I didn't know.
But I'm
That's all.
sorry.
But I gotta
I'm
go back to
sorry,
that
he knew
first
about
meeting.
51,000 gallons down the street and he
That's
like,
the engineer.
"Aw."
No, I'm thinking more of the
Come
applicant.
on now, the 51,000 gallons
I brought
down
it
the
up
street
first
does
meeting.
come
We're
into
off topic.
play.
We're off topic.
So you have a motion you want to
Okay,
make?
you got a motion.
Yeah.
I think
I
you seconded the
seconded it.
motion. We're discussing the motion to make it
Policy.
apparent and policy that we
Reserve the right.
reserve the right to ask for a peer review on sewer reports.
Which
Sewer
is
connection
paid
reports.
for by the
Applicant. Yes. Any further discussion
User.
on that motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, when you read the regulations now,
Yeah.
you don't see anything about the topics that we've just discussed. So when you read the regulations, you'll want to read that.
Yeah, I agree.
Put it in the
You'll wanna read that
regulations.
in there.
I
Okay.
think we should.
So we need a public hearing to add that to the regulations?
But we're not ready to schedule it. We don't
Yeah.
have text. We don't.
And, you know,
I'm trying to do like
You
I know.
already-
kind of thing
you
now.
already
and
have
we'll
the
do it.
authority, because it's a state statute.
Maybe.
And
Maybe.
when I was struggling with noise, remember?
Right.
I mean, there was
Yep.
a state statute,
You wanna say
and
something?
and it was also written in the Darien statute.
Yep. So you had something to fall back on.
And I
actually.
just went to the first select, and they jumped on it like, so that's it.
So,
I don't disagree. I guess I would just like to set an administrative policy now,
and then do it.
and
Okay.
then eventually, when we
Yeah.
have
So nobody feels
clear,
sandbagged.
a clear method of distinguishing when we have to do it.
It's like giving
Yeah.
notice.
Notice, yes,
That we're setting this policy.
reserve the right.
Yep.
If I brought this up at the first meeting, I gave him notice.
Well, now it's,
That's how I feel.
That's
If at the
why- that's
very
why
first
I-
meeting, he
I
came
wanted
to
to-
us and I
The
said,
vote
we
was,
should
the
do
vote was
this.
taken.
yep.
Yeah.
How
It
do
was
we feel?
3-2. Now we have another opportunity to take a vote going forward.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
ready to vote on this.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Yes.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Whoa.
Okay. All those against?
Okay.
All right, 4-1. And I also think that we should endeavor to come up with a clear metric by which we should endeavor to come up with a clear metric by which we say this, when you're doing this much, we need a fulsome report versus when you're not.
In this section of the sewer shed.
Well, that should also be,
Yeah.
that also be a layer.
Because that location matters.
It does. It does.
I mean, if it was right on the Stanford
All
border.
over the locations.
Just because you add another bedroom doesn't even mean you're adding another person to be flushing the toilet.
Most big houses.
But that's the only way to size it. It's the only way to.
I'm
determine.
sorry. I know, but I'm just saying, for the record,
You don't need
that
to.
it's not exactly
Small houses. that have
apples.
people in them.
Just because you have a
apples.
two-bedroom apartment doesn't mean you have 2 people in it, or 4 people in it. Really, the numbers are 4 people, 2 per bedroom. Same.
Gotta start with something.
You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, you might have 6 people.
In some, you might have 14.
Right. Yeah.
We
Before
gotta
we
start
leave this
someplace, and I think we should.
topic,
Are we done with the motion?
no, we're not quite done.
Almost done.
Motion, you voted on it.
We did,
Yeah,
Okay, they are done. Okay.
with that motion.
just inform people when they come to the window when they
Yeah.
start the process.
There might be.
I'm gonna go up.
It's
a
very-
little bit
Yeah.
Sooner than that, I'm gonna get in Jeremy's ear.
Yes.
And make sure any developer coming in gets something from us that says.
Oh, that's cool.
hey,
Because that's.
Do we want to empower staff to ask the town attorney about our authority in this regard?
And how we codify it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. We would like to ask the town attorney about our authority to back charge the applicants, and how best to codify that authority,
Either in regulations or just, something.
or
like that.
administrative policy, or
Administrative
whatever.
policy, whatever
You're
we
talking
need to do.
back charge or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same
In
thing.
what context is that?
Do they peer review? If-
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's what I mean.
Yeah, yeah,
All right,
yeah,
that's-
yeah.
Okay.
All right. We do have a member of the audience that's been sitting here patiently
That's
learning a
correct.
lot.
There is a member of the public who would like to address the commission.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. We should have done public
Awesome,
Do we
comment.
get a grade?
especially after tonight's
If I had
meeting.
known that, I would
This is
have
exciting.
let you know earlier.
I would have been on my best behavior.
Weren't you?
Exactly. I thought that was your best
That was
behavior.
good.
Good evening. I'm Vincent Argabo. I live in 69 Salem Estates in Darien. I'm also on the RTM, and I'm on the RTM Public Works Committee.
Ah,
Well, thanks for volunteering.
well, you came to it.
My assignment with the Public Works is to liaise with Sewer Commission. So I'm here
Aren't you
for that.
lucky?
But my other liaise duty is with the Coastal Waters Commission. And I want to bring up that Westport study that came up a few weeks ago, or months ago, I don't know, on Campo Beach about the effluents from poor septic systems in the area. And I wrote a letter to the Darien Times. It's been a couple of months now, but the essential gist of it was Tokenique, where affluence meets effluence. My point, at 69 Salem Straits, at Salem Straits, we are hooked up to the pump water, the pump sewer system that pumps it out. It's also connected to Long Neck Point. But my neighbors in Delafield Island and Tokenique rejected putting in the pumped water line. And I'm here my agenda is to find a way to compel my neighbors to put in that septic system, and then for the town to figure out how to determine whether septic systems are good or not, and compel them to hook up to that line.
This is a wonderful cherry on
Yeah.
top of the night.
Oh my gosh, Mr. Argandell, Doc Kelly,
We were on EPC when you guys.
and
stepped
you know,
up
and I
Salem
know I brought
Straits.
it up to
Yeah.
Craig. Doc Kelly and I wanted to have a septic system certification program in Darien, and we went to Bob Steger, and he was kind of like, who will pay for it? And I said, that's not a problem. When you come in, every 3 to 5 years, you're going to come in, whatever your fee is to have it inspected would be, cover the cost of the system and cover the cost of all the admin. And I even reached out, and I'm blanking on his name, the guy up from New Canaan who does a lot of septic work.
Vince
Palladino?
Palladino?
Yes, Palladino, because I was out in Tokenique. This house did not even have a cesspool. It was just a hole with rocks, and it had overflown. And I was on EPC, and they needed a commissioner to go out to approve administratively that they were doing this work.
Rockenhouse Road?
I don't remember where it was. It was an old house.
Yeah.
And it was Ralph Palladino. That was the first time I met him. And I asked him, how hard would this be? And he said it'd be really easy for a septic guy to know. So, boy, I would love to see that happen. A septic tank certification program, I think.
Well, I think this is also, but
Excellent.
what I hear is, well, let me first tell you what I've told people, at least since I've been on the board, which is going to be colored by the discussion we had this evening. But if there is popular support in the neighborhood for public sewers, at least every time in the past, this board has accepted that popular support and then moved forward with a sewer expansion project. Because we agree that in areas that are known to have difficult soils and high groundwater and lots of rock near the shore, it's not a great place generally for a septic system. And we did that at 5 Mile and Clocks Lane and everywhere. And we've done it for 20, 30 years. When there is popular support, we get involved. We design it, we bid it, we build it, we assess. So we're not in the advocacy game. We're not going to help you knock on doors.
No.
And we wish you the best of luck.
Okay.
But now, let me turn the question back to the commissioners, which is, that would mean additional flow in the sewer system.
Well, first it has to
Sewer
get,
areas
first it has
that
to
aren't
get through
currently sewered.
the homeowners.
Yeah, the
And-
standard for us is that a group of owners
I-
has
I-
to come
but
together
I
and.
don't believe that's where he's asking.
Yeah.
I think
Are
he's
you looking
saying
for a septic
they're
tank?
high enough that the stuff flows downhill.
No.
No, I'm saying literally that they're high enough where if their system was having issues, the stuff wouldn't remain on their property.
Of course not, they're coastal.
Okay,
So it's gonna go on. So I believe he's asking,
not asking anything.
how do you find out if their systems are failing so you can compel them to do what needs to be done?
I thought
Could
the
I
coastal
give a
For the
people
overall
had,
safety
Hold
of
on, hold
things.
Can I give a personal experience?
Sure.
All right. So we moved into 69 Salem Straits is a house that was built in 1956. And no additions had been done since. It's a very interesting home, but so never was there a permit required for a building or whatever add-on. So it never got inspected. And I understand that the septic systems, if you don't need to, if you're not getting looking for a permit to add on, there's no requirement for you to your system to be inspected and looked at and figured out whether it's good or not. I think my biggest ask right now is there a way to change the regulation or add a regulation that the systems have to be, septic systems
goes to
have to
what
be.
you-
Yeah, that's what Susan's talking about, but
right,
it
and I
wouldn't be
thought that the
us.
coastal, I
Be the
thought
health
that when
department.
Bud
Health
Raleigh
department.
was on the Coastal Advisory Commission,
Well, no,
he
I'm,
told me that you had the right to go and check on people's
The
septic
health
systems.
department.
Yeah, or the health
Honestly,
department.
this is not a
Test the
sewer
waters?
question, this is a health question.
Yeah,
I mean, you just need to pump them out more often.
well,
no, they fail.
I mean,
Oh
I
my
might
gosh,
be
yeah.
on a question how to change
Yeah.
the septic system.
Yeah. What I would say is septic systems and their health is actually not our purview
Uh-huh.
No.
until someone says
It
they
is.
want or need to hook up to the sewers.
Yeah,
So it is entirely under the purview of the local health department and the state health department as to the health and care and of a septic system.
okay.
But you might have some authority
On the coastal side.
on the coastal side.
I know when your street got hooked up.
Yeah.
One of the arguments was the health department had found high nitrogen levels in Scotts Cove, correct?
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
generated hey, let's find this, it was the NIPD's
I
phase
mean,
3, right? Where they
we-
started.
We still get, shell fishing ban on parts of Scott Cove.
Yep.
That
But I mean, I'm amazed, growing up here, the water's cleaner, it's working. A lot of
it's
things like.
cleaner, but there's
everybody's doing.
something's getting in there anyways. I guess my real final point is, that since Darien is so based on having a superior school system, that the coastal waters here, I think, is our second greatest resource, and it should have that same sort of push that
Absolutely.
that our school system has. I'll keep on working, let me go to the health department.
Yeah, good luck. That's cool.
Are you the artist, Vincent Archibald?
No, that's my brother.
Oh.
I'm the brother of the artist.
Just kidding. Gorgeous.
Would anybody like to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah, Peter. I make a motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Gratitude.
You don't want to adjourn, you want to sit here and keep talking? Well, you've
You're
been
just
outvoted.
contrarian.